It is 7:07, 7 p.m. and we're marching towards the mountain already more than 2 hours. 2 hours and 2 minutes left at 5:05. So I'm gonna clock in about 6 hours, more than 6 hours a little bit today. Foggy a little bit, smelly a bit. I got the mask because the fires from Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan have sent our way a little bit of that smog, but not a problem, you know. Just put a mask, and I brought my mask just in case, but it seems to have dissipated. It was foggy between midday and 3 p.m., but right now you gotta rock and roll. I gotta salute the firefighters in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba involved in the firefighting operations, and gotta think about it that we got 5.5 time zones, right, Canada? We got those different time zones. So in Vancouver, British Columbia, we gotta subtract 3 hours. Well, of course, in Alberta, 2 hours, then 1 hour in Saskatchewan, Manitoba. So actually Ontario at the end of it, you know, that's when it goes down with it. And that's when, of course, the hour turns and changes, minus or plus. That's when it goes down with it. And I gotta salute the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, and the plumbers, the electricians, as we go to hit the gym right at the mountain. My second home, the Mountain Mount Royal. Here it is on the fitness journey since 2017. Got that red backpack. I'm auctioning it, the red shorts. Auctioning the green shirt, $1 million each. I got this secondhand about 6 years ago. 6 years ago or so. Between 5 and 7 years ago. Maybe even during COVID. I would say between 4 and 7, you know. I got good memory of the past 7, 8, 9 years. Then after 10, 11, there's a blackout in my memory. So. And maybe COVID caused it, or being attacked by surprise a few years ago in the Montreal Metro was bloodied up. If I hit my head, you got to turn your heads left and right here when you cross the street. Always left and right, even if it's one way, because you never know, you know. So maybe the mold. I used to live in a very tiny, like prison cell, very small, tiny, like it was like a prison cell, almost resembling a hardcore type of prison cell, you know. That's where I lived in a few kilometers from here in this neighborhood. This is Côte-des-Neiges, part of NDG. They merged the boroughs a few years ago, so it's Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, NDG, and Côte-des-Neiges in Montreal, Hog Island metropolis of 2.5 million people, and that's how we're gonna rock and roll it here. I wonder when that building was built, and I think I moved about 10 years ago. Maybe 10 or 9 is gonna be July 1st when I moved, so I gotta double check, but it's been at least 9 years. It could be 10 since I moved. And I remember moving, you know, from that moldy place, and I was depressed, suicidal. Across Canada, coast to coast, that event got me out of being depressed and being suicidal. And, you know, now I gotta be a lot of things to be grateful for, because I got some dollars, I got some sweets. I gotta make a bit of a complaint because the sweets went up in price. They were 50 cents last week, and I even have the proof because I got that recorded. And now I gotta check the bill if I got it maybe in the backpack or in the pocket. It went from 50 cents to 63 cents. All of them that I used to buy, the 3 different ones. So they went in price, they increased in price. So that means, but if you calculate, because to get the percentage you gotta do 50, is 50% of $1, 50 cents of their value. Then you double times 2, so you do 63 minus 50, that's 13. But you gotta double 13. 13 times 2, that's 26%. So to calculate the increase, that's how you do the mathematics. And that equivalates to 26% increase. Now, if you average that for the prices of the salaries have not increased by the same amount. So if you calculate it, you're gonna figure out that it's a big increase, right? In the proportion of the cost of living added up, you know, for the children, the youth, or those who eat sweets. It's still affordable, but nonetheless, it demarcates that I bought only 4, you know, instead of 6. Instead of 6, I bought only 4. Because otherwise it would have cost me more than $5, and I didn't want to overspend more than 5. So that was my reduction, you know, because if I bought 4, it's 13 times 4 is 52, right? So for every 4 that you buy, you lose 1, basically. In other words, reverse mathematical principles of the increase of the cost is that it would have bought 5 before, and now for the same amount, you buy only 4. So the mathematics behind it is that you buy You buy 4 now for the same amount. Well, of course, before last week, I used to buy 5 for the same amount. So that is the differential, you know, to calculate mathematically. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a complaint. I don't know if the salaries of the, you know, the store clerks have also increased by 13%, or even because it's 26%, you know. So even by half of a percentage, that will be 13% of the 26. So that means maybe even give them a raise of 5% if we are to equivalent, you know, the equivalency. So that's the problem where we find ourselves now. Now, of course, financially, we're not on the same page with the majority of the population now struggling as the sun is shining and setting. Sunset here, sunset somewhere else. I mean, sunset here, sunrise somewhere else, because the sun is always rising, always setting. But that is quite an extensive increase in terms of the percentage, 26, when you calculate the percentage. So as I march now to my second home, the mountain, I'm gonna have some steam, and that's my reward. But basically I had to reduce by 2, I guess, because you lose. So basically it's the consumer, citizen, consumer who loses the amount, the purchasing power, if you want to phrase it in economic, commercial, financial terms. The citizen consumer loses financial power. The citizen consumer loses financial power, you know. The citizen consumer loses financial power. The citizen consumer loses financial power, you know. That's what it is. So basically the power of the financial elements behind it, that's what they lose it, you know. So that's what they lose it with that, and that's what they gotta get it on the loss and found, and how they equivalent, of course, how they make it to evaluate the prices is up maybe somewhere along the middle, eh? It's not always in the middle, but it's always something maybe at the producers actually who increased, and then the middle had to increase, and then the seller had to increase, because these are imported. It's still an affordable price, but they're imported from overseas. They're Turkish made, you know. So Turkish made, you know. So Turkish made. So that means that they crossed overseas, you know. So that means that they crossed overseas with that, and that's what they gotta get doing with that, and they get it to go, you know. So meaning that it is also the transportation costs could have augmented, increased. So the import-export business, tariffs also could be used as justifications, you know, for the prices increase. But I guess there's Canadian tariffs. It will have to be on Turkey, you know, because it's Turkey. Both of them are Turkish, from the country of, now it's Turkey. So that's an element of financial mathematics one-on-one, you know. So that's where the problem lies today, fundamentally, because the prices have increased so much, and they keep increasing while the salary stagnates. So the stagnation of the salaries in parallel to the increasing cost of living, that's the double trouble right there. Myself also am financially stressed today. I gotta be grateful my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. That's what it is with that. And being that I paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, is something that I gotta be grateful for. My rent's paid my electricity bill, rent's paid, and got coffee, got food, and my coffee's gonna run out soon, but I guess I'm gonna find it somehow special, maybe somewhere in the world. In my world, I guess Hawkeye, Montreal, which is the big metropolis, I guess I'm gonna have to do the best shopping to get the most affordable. So I'm gonna probably last me until next week. By Friday next week, the day before the Sabbath, special pre-Sabbath. Look at those beautiful. Enough of my face. Time to focus on those luscious flowers which attract the ants, attract the ants with that. So that's why they do that attraction here as I march from. This is kind of the street which kind of demarcates my old neighborhood there and my new neighborhood there. So nothing that I will to go back to, you know, here on Côte Saint-Luc. Nothing that I will to go back to, but on Côte Saint-Luc here. And we got some of those public workers with that, and gotta get it on the go. And here we are, my brothers and sisters on the go. And that's what we gotta get doing with that, you know. Gotta watch it for the cars. Sometimes they cross and they blast, you know. They turn on the go, and they turn on the left, and they turn on the right, and that's what they get going, you know. So now as we go, of course, all the way to the mountain, we're gonna get it on the run. And for the truckers, the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the firefighters, electricians, the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the doctors, and those firefighters on the go, we gotta get it on the left and on the right, and right here in the center, you know. I got a big clumsiness. I have Asperger's, so with that neurodivergence, it's a bit more difficult to interact, socially in a social manner. Sometimes the social abilities, the skills are not that well concorded, not that well presented, but I have my own strengths, you know. I'm part of this tiny minority small community called Asperger's. I live with this neurological mental divergent condition called Asperger's, also known as HFA, but I introduce both because really Asperger's is a different neurodivergent condition than autism, although it is merged with autism, but it's slightly different. But our brains have these mutations, and ASP brain has mutations. So these mutations account for several factorials, several ways in which we present ourselves to the world, or how we interact in the daily activities of the daily life, the daily living. Sometimes we might be too direct and we might offend without even knowing, you know. And some characteristics, because they're not symptoms, since I reject using the word symptom. They're characteristics, and yes, certainly I do accept that Aspies like myself, who are part of this tiny community of 0.44%, less than half of a percentile, less than 1%, Aspies, of course, we are a tiny minority of the population. There's not a lot of Aspies in the world, you know. There's not a lot of Aspies in the world. So there's not a lot of Aspies in the world, right? It's a small community. 0.44%. 0.44%. Less than 1%, less than half of a percent. So it's really a small minority, small community with that, and that's all we gotta get doing on that, and that's all we gotta get that rock and roll and somebody getting it a bit beautiful. I love those pillars there. See how they're pillars? They're really nice pillars, you know. And that's what they got, and that's what they gotta get it on that rock and roll, and that's what they get it in, and that's what they gotta get it on, you know. So here, between my old neighborhood and my new, and it hasn't been a long, but it's been like 3.5 years, close to 4, since I accepted I have Asperger's, because for years and years and years I've been diagnosed and labeled, and several people have diagnosed me, told me, you know, you have Asperger's, and I said no, I didn't want to wear the stigma, the label of, because it's still a stigma. There's a lot of work to be done. There's mystification in the 21st century. There has been a lot of work being done, being presented, but that's it what it is, and that's it for the go, and that's it for the left, for the right, and that's all we got, man. Because there's no medication for Asperger's. There's the occurrence of certain mutations in the brain. So the brain has these mutations, you know. The brain has these mutations. So due to the fact that the brain has these mutations, we see the world differently. So, but these mutations again are minimal. They're not extensive mutations, but they're not enough to account. And of course the real source, origin, and how come Asperger's exists is the source is unknown. It is a mixture of hereditary, biological, genetic traits, and genetic factors, biological factors, genetic factors, and of course partly environmental. So partly environmental, partly genetic factors, partly environmental factors. So these account for those. But again, the real source is unknown. Really, it is 100% inconclusive, right? And medication, no, only if an Aspie is depressed or suicidal. And unfortunately, my community suffers from very high, 9 times more than the vast majority of the neurotypicals of 99.56%. The Aspies, 9 times more. There's a miser suicidal rate and ideational suicidal tendencies and depression. 9 times higher, 9 times higher. 9 times higher than whatever the case may be, and whatever the case may be, they gotta get doing with that, whatever the case doing with that drill. So that's what I get doing with that. So 9 times higher. And also depression, and also parallel to being 9 times more prevalent in the Aspie community. I lived it myself. Thank God is God, God is God, God is every day. That of course I crossed Canada coast to coast, ocean to ocean, east to west in 2017, and that event really, of course, changed my whole life around, and of course turned my whole life around. That event made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, who are considered family, Quebecers, Canadians, and my brothers and sisters in the 50, because my dream is, of course, for the implementation of the Trinity of theories, the DRT, Death Row Fusion Theory, and the DFT, Democratic Fusion Theory, and the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, for the 63 to 50 states, 10 provinces, 3 territories, and of course, I was born in the United States 3 times, once as a woman, twice as a man, served in the United States Armed Forces, twice in previous incarnations, 156 years apart, and here I am today, financially stressed but grateful, thankful. Crossing Canada made me had a revelation, and I stopped being depressed, I stopped being suicidal, I started working out, training, exercising, so I'm beyond the fitness journey ever since, and I lost between 80 and 93 pounds. I've been 80 and 93 pounds, you know. Between 80 and 93 pounds. Created my own workout training program. I survived COVID. COVID was hardcore for me, you know. Back in 2020, between February 2020 and March 2020, I had COVID. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. Like death, pestilence, and disease. When I say death, pestilence, and disease, better be death, pestilence, and disease. I'm my enemies, please. Rock and roll, gonna say squeeze. I love that rock and roll. That's my special interest. But that's how I felt, man. That's how I really felt. I thought I was with my last chapter in 2020, between February and March, and I survived COVID. I survived the coronavirus. I got triple vax, 3 vaccines, and here I am marching and dancing, workout for me, special event, special Dragon versus Trump, and again, unfortunately, also parallel to a high depression, high suicidal tendency and rates, is a mega high, too high for my fellow ASPI community, which is a small community of 0.44%. Not a lot of ASPIs in the world, but the unemployment is 11 times bigger than the normative, which lies between 5 and 10%. ASPI, in the ASPI community, is between 60 and 80%. I'm gonna repeat those numbers. It's between 60 and 80%. It's between 60 and 80%. Hey, sais-tu que c'est ouvert, hein? Ton il est ouvert.
Ah ouais, ben je savais que
tu le savais, ok. Sinon, je peux te le fermer si tu veux.
Ah, ok, merci.
J'allais t'aider, là.
Ah, ben merci.
Ah, ok,
ouais, ben,
tu vas le faire toi-même, là.
Ouais.
Juste pour pas que ça tombe, ok. Je vais te laisser là-dessus.
Mais merci.
Mais ça me fait plaisir. Puis j'ai vu ton bac, j'ai dit si ça tombe, tu vas perdre tout ça le liquide. En plus, c'est cher de nos jours pour l'acheter.
Ah ouais,
On va devoir en faire un, tu sais, à l'ancienne. On est capable. Ciao, bonne journée. So I told my fellow citizen there that he had his thing open, and I didn't want him to lose the French joke there. I said French joke that the expensive, because it looked like it was gonna fall, and he had a book in his hand, and that he was going to do laundry. It reminds me of me going to do laundry, and I said for his safety, security, and for him not wasting money. That's why it's like a French joke, Quebecois here, as I'm a Quebecer, French Quebecer, North American, Canadian American here, Canadian American Quebecer, North American for the 63, and all who come to join us. And the discussion was, of course, that was gonna fall and it was gonna splash all over and he was gonna lose. I said it's gotten expensive nowadays, and he laughed, said yeah. And then I said in French, we're gonna have to do our own from now on. And he laughed, he said yeah, and I said we're gonna be able to, but I guess it takes some ingredients which also maybe need purchasing, or if not, we extract the natural resources from the planet, right? So whatever, I'm not gonna go into intellectual discussion of the laundry detergent, but it has increased. Not that much more food increased, but I see some laundry soaps which have also increased. So point is that it was about to fall, and I just let him know. And please let me know also, if my backpack that I'm carrying is wide open, if I'm about to lose especially food, because food security is important right now. So again, the high unemployment rate, Asperger's, 11 times bigger. Is between 60 and 80%. 60 and 80%. 60 and 80%. Can you imagine 60 and 80% while the majority of the population is between 4 and 10? So it's 11 times higher, 11 times. But yes, we have employment, we have jobs. I worked in many different organizations, institutions, and CHSLDs, and a lot of different institutions in the past 5 years, especially in the past 7 during COVID. But unfortunately, is something which, of course, I had struggle maintaining, you know, maintaining regular employment. I had a big struggle with that. And I still do, you know. But I'm grateful I got the opportunity the other week to get $150 for 5 hours of work. That was $30 per hour. That was a good amount, and I was happy, content. Had to do some physical work, some cleaning, some rubbing, but I'm always open for business, and it's pledge your allegiance. Friends with benefits only from now on, you know. Friends with benefits only. They gotta get it on the go, and that's what we gotta get doing now, you know. We gotta get it on the love, and we gotta get it for the love side of things, and also for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the plumbers, electricians, firefighters. LOV to the firefighters, the truck drivers, all those involved in the production, distribution of food right now, all those on the go, and all those doing that good stuff. We got 10 seconds, 7 seconds. Here in Montreal, Hawk Island, I got 3 seconds. Guess I'm gonna get it just in time. And grocery store clerks. The grocery store clerks. Gotta give some salutation to the grocery store clerks, bakers, butchers, and those who change some diapers in the daycares. As the North American Collectif calling for the implementation of my Trinity of theories, it's pledge your allegiance. Friends will benefits only. Friends will benefits only. Those fast food workers across the 63, baking some pizzas, making some dough, baking some bread, baking some pizzas, baking some bread, and doing some of those deliveries, and getting some of that dough made up, and gotta get it on that, and those flipping some burgers, cheeseburgers, across the fast food, across the 63, gotta be saluting them as well, along with the truckers, delivering some of those goods, across the 63, now going east, west, north, south, going the weekend, delivering our bread, our milk, our bread, our butter, our cheese, our lettuce, all the produce, all the goods which we have now. Got 4 seconds, just enough. Here in the restaurants here across the 63, you know. Gotta get it for them, and always for the firefighters, ambulance drivers, you know. Gotta sing for them, you know. That's what is good, and that's what is good with that, and that's what is good for the go, and gotta get it for now to live on, and do some of that red. I love the red car there, how it is. It's actually a Mustang. I don't know much about cars, but see, an N.A.C.W.P might know a little bit of N.A.C.W.P. N.A.C.W.P, whose special interest is cars, might know a little bit of that, and that's all we got, a little bit of that. An N.A.C.W.P might, if his special interest of an N.A.C.W.P is cars, the N.A.C.W.P might know everything there is to know about cars. You might look at a car, might know the model. I'm pretty sure that was a Mustang, Mustang. I'm not a pro, I'm not an expert, but I believe that was a Mustang from the shape of it, of course. But I could be wrong, it could have been Chevrolet, but whatever. But an N.A.C.W.P might know so much about cars, if that's a special interest of an N.A.C.W.P. He might know the consumption rate of the gas per 100 kilometers, what, of course, technicalities is, how much the weight is, how much the weight, you know, whatever the case is, the weight, you know, the structure of a car, of course, where it was fabricated, the year, all those details about a car, an N.A.C.W.P might know just by looking at it. Well, I'll be only superficial because my special interests are the Holy Trinity, 24/7 geopolitics, the study, the analysis of geopolitical events, sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport. Dancing is my favorite sport. Dancing is my favorite sport. And of course, rock and roll. Always rock and roll for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, the bakers. So we're trying to preserve some beautiful trees. Look at that beautiful moss. Gotta take it in. Beautiful moss there. Mossy tree. And that's how we got. And that's how we're gonna rock and roll, you know. All the way for the cheeseburgers, hamburgers. So those making some fries, all the food that's being produced now across the 63, nourishing the bodies, you know. Gotta think about that, you know. Civilization is a privilege. You know, you got those, I think those are 2G, 3G, 4G, 5Gs being now put. More and more 5G, but maybe those are 2G, 3G. Fundamentally, it's kind of the same protocols, fundamentally of telecommunications, byway to point A to point B. All telecommunications in point can be intercepted. No need to stingray me, but I have really nothing to hide, really. So don't spy on me. Secret services of Russia, secret services of China. Stay over there. Don't cross the Atlantic, nor the Pacific. The Atlantic from the east, the Pacific from the west. And I have as my special interest geopolitics. So yes, some secrets are national security matters for the national security of Canada and the United States, while also paradoxically having my own vulnerabilities, which I learned a lot in the past years, especially by my anonymous friend who got me some books, so that I learned, of course, that aspies were vulnerable for abuse, for taking advantage of, because certain things of a social nature do not easily come to us. So we got to work on that naivete, that honesty so much. But I cannot discuss over much the general war integrated total body training system. The general war integrated total body training system I can discuss, but the total mobile defense theory, the TMDT, the total mobile defense theory, the TMDT, I cannot discuss it over much. I cannot discuss it too much, that is. It's something which has to be guarded because it matters for national security. That is binational for the 63 24/7. And all who come to ally with us here is we're going to fuse Canada and the United States by creating the new currency and implementing my DRT theory. I'm just going to wait a bit because it's noisy now. Here we are. This kind of my old neighborhood starts here. I used to live over there, and we were kind of like prison cell type of moldy, small, underground type of prison cell. So I guess I served my time. I guess gotta get it for the do and gotta get it for the love and the little youth there loving. That's what gives me some hope, you know. They're happy. I'm joyous, and I don't mean to stare, but that brings me some hope. Kind of making some of that good touch and good loving, and so we gotta get they're happy, joyous, they're security, make some love, make some good loving, and be free. That's what I want to see, free, secure youth, and kind of see them loving. That's what makes me happy, you know. They're happy, I'm happy, and so we gotta get it doing, man. You know, some of that rainbow love, you know. Teenager love, getting for that. That's made my day. That's worth defending for. I'm gonna march for them. They kissed a little bit, hugged a little bit, and I don't know, whatever gender XYZ, kissing, loving a little bit. That's what matters, you know. See, holding each other, loving, and hey, man, y'all give me hope. That's the march for them. Oh yeah. Gotta salute the youth, you know. Gotta salute the youth. Oh, that's how we gotta get doing. And here, oh, it's been cleared. You know, I am for giving people permission if they're graffiti wise, if they know how to get that graffiti. you know, we should designate spaces. Maybe this one, you know, if you're really talented and have that graffiti, we should have channeled creativity and art, you know, something which we can channel and something which we can do, of course, which we can channel in the environment, and that is something which we have to furnish as I go in my own neighborhood. Nothing that I will to go back, but I'm just gonna go to the mountain because I want to see the sunset, but I guess got some clouds, so I don't really know. Maybe I'm gonna put it there and gonna leave it there. I'm gonna rock and roll and gonna turn my head left or right, and that's what we're gonna get doing, man. Here we're getting a little bit of that barbecue, a little bit of that good red, and that's what we gotta get doing, man. Here, you know, passing through my own neighborhood, just passing through, saluting the truckers, the bakers, the youth, those youth who are doing some kissing. That gives me a big smile, big hope, but you gotta be 18 to come love with me, you know. I'm gonna card you just like going as the SQDC to buy that legal cannabis, you know, or alcohol or liquor. It's 18 plus, you know. Otherwise we can dance together. Dancing is my favorite sport. We can rock and roll together. You can dance on my rock and roll, but you know, you made love with your ages, you know. So basically it's adults, and that's what we're gonna get doing. That's what we're gonna get doing with the adults and between adults. Gotta be 18 plus to come do some loving with me. Black, white, man, woman, you know, I am androgynous, pansexual, and have been for years and years in the open, you know. I have been for years and years in the open, androgynous, pansexual. That's a nice black car, and that's why I gotta put it on. And see, it's getting more foggy here, but hey, that made my day, my March. I'm gonna double vigor that, double enthusiastic. I gotta include those two. I'm gonna call them my children, and watch my children, my youth, black, white, and rainbow, like a hawk across the 63, like a hawk across the 63, like a hawk. H-A-W-K, my totem bird. We can do a little bit of barking, but not too much, you know. not too much, a little bit. And really, that gave me joy there in the corner, you know. Them kissing and, you know, touching each other in a loving manner, you know. Caressing each other in a loving manner and freely, you know, in the Friday night's coming, so I'm assuming, you know, I couldn't see well, but teenage loving, you know, so whatever case that is, black, white, and rainbow. Wanna come loving with me, you gotta be on that 18 plus, you know, 18 plus, that's it with that. So now we're gonna get a little bit into geopolitics, because that is my special interest. So for me as an N.A.C.W.P, I got my holy trinity: androgynous N.A.C.W.P artist here, philosopher, geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and mystic and athlete, artist, philosopher, geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and mystic who believes in reincarnations and who gotta get a little bit of that loving with that, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that. Gonna get on that rock and roll, you know. Sometimes which we gotta do, and gonna get a little bit of that break. And my fellow citizens there, I used to live over there, not that far from here. My new place is far from where I live here. I used to live in a moldy underground, small basement, like a prison, so like a tiny prison. So I guess I served my time, you know. Got plenty of scars and trauma. Survived being attacked by surprise. That was bloodied up, and went to the hospital. The Jewish general was put on some meds for pain and medication. They cracked back my right arm. They were put back, and I was put on some meds, and it was put back, and it's put back on some meds. For a few days I was like in a coma type of state. So before that, my life prior to that is what I wrote in journals, and I got a high school diploma. I got letters of reference. Supposedly I was supposed to go to the Kingston Military College. Supposedly I was supposed to go to the Kingston Military College. So I guess I was always for a year N.A.C.W.P who's interested in geopolitics. Is if you want to go to military college, well, you got to know geopolitics, because that's part of fundamentally the geopolitical events, you know, which are congruent, and warfare is on the top, you know. Primary importance in geopolitics is philosophy and ideology and culture and land, and of course commerce, economics, commercial economics, and that's all we got, and that's what we got to get doing with that. And here in my own neighborhood, you know, my brothers and sisters all who come to join us across the 63. We got to fuse and we got to really implement my Trinity theories, you know, the DRT, Death Fusion Theory, the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, and the DFT, the Democratic Fusion Theory. That Trinity theories to be implemented via the fourth dimension love to that Trinity, you know. See, I wonder if that's 4G and 5G there. Is that 4G, 5G, 4 or 5G there? And of course, I don't know all the technical apparatus behind them, but I do know that, of course, we're open for espionage and sabotage, you know. We're open for espionage and sabotage. But I don't know how exactly, if it's to be done feasibly, but I know that it's capable. So in theory, all communications, whether by phone, by the internet, right, is potentially open for to be intercepted by a third party, right? All of it, all. Whether Pegasus, Stingray, or the one that I create in the future called Dragon Eyes. But only for security, service, and defense, because in the parallel life, I'm a super scientist. I also have Asperger's, but there I build supercomputers and ICBM rockets and domes and satellites, sats, microchips, and everything to do with mathematics and science. That's what I do in that parallel timeline life, in that parallel universe. I also have Asperger's, but there's science, physics, mathematics, my special interest, not like in this life where it's geopolitics, sports, fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport activity, and dancing is my favorite sport. And of course you got a little bit of a messy stuff here, but maybe somebody will resume some, or otherwise they're gonna go in recycling and rock and roll in this life. So that's my holy trinity. Bag of donations there in the city, Montreal Hawk Island, in my city, Hawk, HAWK. That's the Hawk Island of the Hawk, you know. We gotta hawk it. I'm just gonna take my glasses off. I guess it's time, of course, for me to take the glasses off and to go and get it on, put it inside, and because it's sunset, so I don't really need the glasses anymore. They might even impede me properly crossing the streets, you know, if it's on the go. So that's how we're gonna get doing with that, and we gotta get doing on the go now, you know. So give me a few seconds here. That's how we gotta get doing. So actually this time we can go by there. Usually we don't go by that side, but now I'm gonna get it by this side, by my own neighborhood here, you know. But it's nothing that I will to go back to, just of course living for today with hope for tomorrow. Can we go by there? I'm not sure. Maybe. No, is it closed? Maybe by that side. Sometimes there's alleys in the alleyways here where you can kind of cross and zigzag and make sure that you cross safely, because there's cars, and you know, cost of gas nowadays has increased and it hasn't gone down. It's still way more than it was. And you see here, you can go through the alleys and take you a little bit of these alleys where I roamed for years in the past, more than between 8 and 9 years and 11 years ago, and I can remember I spent a lot of times in hitting these alleys with one foot in the streets, one foot in the libraries, one foot in the streets, one foot in the libraries, one foot in the streets, one foot in the libraries for a few years. And like I said, I don't know what causes retrograde amnesia, but probably, you know, Probably, I don't do drugs, I don't drink, you know, very rarely on occasion, but sometimes alcohol causes it. Alcoholic, indulgence in alcohol, or it could be alcoholic beverages, and whatever the case may be, alcoholic. Sometimes it's alcohol or drugs or trauma. It can be that by trauma you lose it, and by trauma you regain the memory sometimes. Or this is a nice red. Gotta get it on that with that. It's a beautiful red. really vivid colors, you know. It's gonna get doing with that, you know. So it's XYZ, you know. Gotta get it on the drill and gotta get it on that, and we gotta get it on loving, and the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, they gotta give them a raise here. See, this is why I make the shopping today for those chocolate bars, and they're expensive now. For my budget, they got a bit too expensive. 26% is of course big, you know, for me at least. For my budget, 26% is a bit big for me. But it's not a lot for somebody else, you know. It's not really that, so that's what it is with that. And so we gotta get doing, man, for the drill. And my fellow citizens there, you know. Gotta get it for the drill, and that's how we gotta get doing from here, you know. For the east, for the west, for the north, for the south, and gotta check a little bit of that sunset. Gotta get a little bit of that sunset there. See? Gotta get it for the go, and that's the total mobile defense too. We gotta get on that drill, and that's how we gotta get it for the sun, you know. Is the sunshine and sunsets, and that's how we gotta get on that XYZ, you know. So something which we got, man. Cross the street brutally, you know. Cross the street brutally, you know. Gotta get it on the XYZ. That's what we gotta get doing, man, you know, for that. The lovers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the plumbers, you know, the electricians, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and all those now on the field, you know, doing a little bit of that good cleaning and good operations and good doing and good loving and holding hands and getting on the XYZ, and so we gotta get doing with that, and they're doing a little bit of hand holding there and a little bit of that do, and some things which we gotta doing there, man. Some loving, you know. Gotta get some of that good loving, man. It's important, you know. People happy, joyous, and doing a little bit of loving there, and doing a little bit of left, and doing a little bit of right, and doing a little bit of that left, right, and in the middle, and that's how we gotta get drilling, you know. For the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, all those in the production, distribution of food. That's how we gotta get doing, you know. All those bakers, nurses, cooks, electricians, plumbers, all those now, you know, involved in the production and distribution of that labor, and all those now who gotta get it on, and so we're gonna get doing on the drill, you know. Gotta get on the left and on the right, and here we gotta cross the streets brutally, you know, brutally here. So we gotta get doing on that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the left, you know. Here we got on the do, and that's what we gotta get doing on that, and that's what we gotta get doing on that, you know. Just cross the street brutally, and that's how we cross the street, you know, on the go, and that's how we have to get doing with that, and make sure, of course, we cross on the street on the safe side, and that's how we gotta get doing, you know. Look at that beautiful, isn't that beautiful? Here we are. That's all we gotta get doing with that. That's all we got, you know. Beautiful city, Hawk Island, Montreal. Montreal, H-A-W-K. Gotta get it now. Gotta come visit Montreal, Hawk Island, learn some French, and see those. They're doing some work there. Couvreur, they called in French, so got that few 1,000 gallons to put the covering for the winter, because sometimes we get that winter hard, and gotta get that winter on the go, and here we are, man, approaching the mountains. So I'm going to discuss a little bit of geopolitics, because I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and again, I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. So I predicted what's happening now in 2019. I am an independent geopolitical theoretical clandestine theorist who's not perfect, far from it, who's of course survived COVID. I died during COVID, really, nothing that I will to go back to. And I died during COVID, and that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing. And I survived being depressed, being suicidal, and I love seeing people making out, kissing, and working out, training, exercising. That gives me a little bit of hope, and I got hope for the collective. We gotta get in that dome, Golden Dome. We gotta put a hawk unit to include Canada, and my way to fuse the 63 best, 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories. That's the way to go via my dream, the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, which is fundamentally a public-private partnership across the North American civilizational collective, across North America. And here we are, you know. I wonder how much it's complete, but I wonder how much it costs there to get a rent. And I'm not behind, never. Struggle, but always paid my rent first of the month. Paid my electricity bill. It's June 6th today. June 6th already, you know, so it's it's June 6th now, so gotta be mindful of that, you know. So that's all we gotta get doing on the go, and that's all we gotta get doing on the go with that. So we gotta get for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the firefighters, electricians, plumbers. We gotta create that dragon army for total SSD, total security, total service, total defense, based on my new 911 North American Dragon protocols for total security, total service, total defense. So reform for the North American collective, and gotta get it for that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the XYZ, and gotta put it on the love, and we gotta put it on the birds, and for the youth, we gotta get it on the love inside of things. And they're doing some dancing in the corner, which is good, and they're rock and roll and rap, and that's what I love to see. Dancing is my favorite sport, and get that dance, and in the corner, that's always good. And let's get that dancing goddess army, DJ, the dancing goddess army, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta get doing on that, you know. So gotta get it on the go, you know. What is this? We gotta include Canada. The Dragon Army, we gotta get it on the Dragon Army. Oh yeah. We gotta wait it on the XYZ, and that's what it is, that's what it got, and that's how I get it on that sun, you know. Here we are for the collective, and gonna discuss a little bit of geopolitics, because I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical clandestine theorist, and as an N.A.C.W.P, that's my special interest. So I could do a session. Anybody want to finance, because I'm special. My special interest is geopolitics, and I am an independent geopolitical theoretical clandestine theorist, and geopolitics is my kingdom, my domain, and I could do just one on the present Elon Musk-Trump feud. And you know, it's a Dragon versus Trump edition. I have been in and will continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border, and have been in and will continue to challenge Donald Trump, and I have been ever since 2018, because imposing tariffs on Canada to Granddaddy Trump. I ain't no MAGA supporter. I would have voted for Biden Kamala. I was born in the United States 3 times. Once as a woman, post-76, twice as a man. Served in the same United States Armed Forces, 2 different wars, 156 years apart. And that's how we're gonna get that congregation now. To getting on the do, and getting on the do, and getting on the do, and getting on the butchers, and getting on the bakers, and getting on the truckers, and getting for the lovers, and sports, and so we gotta get doing with that. So gotta get it now, and play a little bit, and do a little bit of loving. And again, you know, that was a mistake, Granddaddy Trump, and suddenly these new tariffs, at least on Canada, from a Canadian perspective, the tariffs on Canada were of course a mistake, we're a mistake, because our main geopolitical interest is, and this is a constant, you know, it's not nothing like, it's not a no, it's always a yes, So this is not a no or a maybe. What I'm going to make saying, the political statement which I'm going to say, is that our primary interest is to have the best, most important financial, economic, commercial relations with my brothers and sisters in the United States. That is just how it is. There's no no, and there's no maybe. There's no no and no maybe. There's yes. It's yes. Yes, that's what it is. It's yes. It's a constant. So this never changes. This is always the same constant thing. So as it presents itself, this is always a constant. Just like the pi symbol, you know? I'm just going to go check those bushes there, because, you know, I love white bushes like that. The moon is getting full. Next week, full moon. I'm going to do some big cleaning. But of course, that is a geopolitical constant. So us, as Quebecers, Canadians, Quebecers, as reciprocally my brothers and sisters in the United States, I just love these white bushes. It's just so refreshing. So our primary interest is to have the best, most cordial relations with my brothers and sisters in the United States. That is our best interest. Our most important interest, economic, financial, commercial, is to have the best, most cordial economic, financial, military, political, social events interest, as of course with my brothers and sisters in the USA. That is just what it is. Our number one interest is to have the most best. Look at those. And this is like the pi, you know, this pi symbol, which represents the relationship between the ratio, between the circumference and the diameter and the circumference. Beautiful flowers, they actually smell good. The diameter and the circumference, you know, the pi number, it's always 3.1415, and it goes ad infinitum. And now that I passed by discussing the circles, that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get doing with that rock and roll, you know. So it's something which we gotta get doing, you know. So that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple. 11 times bigger than this here, this is what it is now, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, man. These are beautiful flowers, just gotta love them a little bit. Well, they look like a little bit of lions, but they smell good. See, I call them lion flowers. They smell so good, and they're really beautiful. Just 11 times the Forgotten Goddess Temple. 11 times bigger, of course, than the, whatever the case may be, 11 times, then that oratory there, 11 times, it's the oratory. Get it on the go, and get it on that, and getting on the oratory that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta get doing, you know, and gotta get doing on now, and be focused for today, and would hope for tomorrow, but let's build the Forgotten Goddess Temple to be 11 times bigger than the oratory, and I credit my surviving COVID to the Forgotten Goddess. As a mystic, I goddess it always with a god. I don't have all the answers, and I am a priestess here. Inside me incarnate is a priestess, as was in a past life a priestess of ancient Egypt. And of course, we got that pyramids here, the mountain, Mount Royal, and I also will to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple, parallel to the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. Caesar Superdome is, of course, where my 49ers lost to the San Francisco 49ers, and that's what it is with that. And of course, to be 11 times bigger than the Harbor Bowl, of course, where the Caesar Superdome is now called. They changed names several times. Before it was known, of course, as the Mercedes-Benz. We gotta get it. And of course, my 49ers lost, you know. So basically, of course, to build it 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. It used to be known as the Mercedes-Benz, and before that it used to be known as the Louisiana Superdome, and that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing, and that's what we gotta get doing on that, and gotta get it on down, you know. So it's something which we gotta be doing, and something which we gotta be on the left and on the right and in the side, and here we gotta get on the doors, man. Look at that beautiful sunset. And also to build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, and of course also to build the pyramid, House of the Dragon, scarlet, crimson, and scarlet, shades of red, and my favorite color, you know, shades of red with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and of course the Rainbow People's Palace, the Rainbow People's Palace, you know, Rainbow People's Palace, to be 11 times bigger. The Rainbow People's Palace, you know, to be 11 times bigger. 11 times bigger than the Harbor Ball. Where the Harbor Ball was played, that's what it is with that, and that's how we're gonna go, and we're gonna build it 11 times, and that's how we're gonna get doing. Build it 11 times, and so we're gonna get building on that building, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, and that's how we're gonna get it on that rock and roll, you know. It's gonna get it now, and it's gonna get it for left and for the right, and that's how we're gonna go drilling with that, you know. For the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the electricians, the plumbers, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and that's how we're gonna go drilling, you know, 24/7 for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, those bakers, those butchers, those nurses. The bakers, the butchers, you know, the electricians, the plumbers, you know, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, you know, all those, man. Gotta get it on that, and that's what we gotta get doing, man. That's what we gotta get rock and rolling with the love. See, here we got the bakers baking some of that good Publik works with that beautiful red. I just love it. Don't you just love it? Wow! Gore. Say it, gorgeous, excellent, beautiful. Oh yeah, that was just refreshing. Red, my favorite color, auctioning these shorts. So basically, I will to build those 4. Thank you, construction workers. And I know just blah 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 won't cut it, but I'm gonna put some feet washing massages and or some of that work, you know. Some of that work, massages and feet washing and whatever the case may be, you know. Feet washing, massages, and that's how we're gonna get doing on building, and so we're gonna get doing for that, you know. Feet washing and massages, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, and gotta get it on the go, you know. Something which we gotta do doing with that, you know. So something which we gotta get, you know, like. Like that. So that's how we're gonna get doing with that, and that's how we need to build, you know, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, the Forgotten Goddess Temple, and that's how we gotta get drilling, you know. Build the Forgotten Goddess Temple to be 11 times, you know, bigger than the Harbor Ball, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. So. Don't you just love these buildings? I just love the structure of them. They have a little bit of that structure, and that's what it is with that, and that's what it is with the XYZ, and so we gotta get doing with that. And that's all we got here, beautiful buildings, structures, and we gotta get it on the do, and that's what we gotta get doing on that, you know. As we march to the mountain, my second home, I wonder when these were built, when these constructions were built, and I put them now in a geopolitical context because of the recent use of agricultural bioweaponry. So of course, in my scenario, of course, that's what it is with that. And in my scenario, of course, in my scenario, that's it with that, and that's what it is with that go, and that's what it is with that, and so we gotta get doing on that, and so we gotta get rock and rolling, you know. So we gotta get doing, you know. So it is something which happens, you know. That's how we gotta get thinking, you know, because what if, you know, we are dependent on all sorts of agricultural products. That's why I say no food waste. You never know. Hey, surprise attack happened before. I got attacked by surprise, and I am hyper vigilant, and now I will to build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, and of course to be 11 times bigger than the Harbor Bowl, where the Harbor Bowl was played. Not just the Harbor Bowl, but several other Super Bowls. But one of my favorite Super Bowls was of course performed there. My 49ers lost by 3. Only, of course, a lot before by 3. That's how we gotta get doing, and gotta get doing on the XYZ, and that's how we gotta get doing on XYZ, and gotta get doing on that, and that's how we gotta get doing with the XYZ. Gotta get it on the go. So it's something which we gotta get doing, and XYZ for the Forgotten Goddess Temple, and gotta get it for the Forgotten Goddess Temple. That's how we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta get rock and rolling. That's what it is. So the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, to be 11 times, you know, bigger than the Harbor Bowl, where the Harbor Bowl was played, and of course to also build the Forgotten Goddess Temple and the pyramid, Scarlet Crimson, the House of the Dragon. Nobody's born a dragon, you become one. That's the motto of the Dragon Army. So let's build it. Let's build it. Build it up and build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, you know, where me and Donald Trump, of course, we're gonna fight it off, and we're gonna inaugurate it, and that's what it is with that, and so we gotta get doing on that, and we're gonna get it on doers, you know. So also we gotta get doing on the go. So yeah, that's what we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta build it 11 times bigger than the Harbor Bowl, you know, where the Harbor Bowl was built, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and gotta get it on the go, you know, for the plumbers, electricians, the nurses, and the doctors, and the firefighters, and the butchers, and the bakers, the nurses, and the doctors, and the firefighters, and the plumbers, and those involved in the production and distribution of food. That's what we gotta get doing, man. Gotta get building the North American People's Imperial Coliseum of Canadian joined aluminum and steel, and me and Donald Trump are gonna fight inauguration event is going to be Dragon versus Trump, and Canadian, American, United States steel cement workers are going to build it. United States workers are going to build it. And of course, me and Donald Trump are going to fight it, and we're going to inaugurate it, and that's how we're going to do the inauguration. Me and Donald Trump in it, and that's how we're going to get drilling with that, and that's how we're going to get on the consequential things, and so we're going to get on the go, you know. So it's something which we have to be doing, you know. Me and Donald Trump, and so we're going to get rock and rolling with that. For the 63, the 10 provinces, 50 states, and 3 territories. 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 Pledge your allegiance, legions, you know. Thou our family, and that's how we gotta get rock and rolling, you know. So something which we gotta be doing, you know. Something which we gotta be preserving and mixing the 63, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom with that. Dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, you know. Gonna get on that rock and roll, and we're gonna be drilling and gonna get that democratic republic, because I'm a democratic Republican, pro-labor, love, universal revolutionary centrist, founding the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom with trillions of kisses created from the forgotten goddess. Kisses I got by the trillions with that, and that's how we got the trillions of those kisses, and we got that appellation, and we got that zigzag, and we got that go, and we gotta get it on the doers and the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, truckers, plumbers, and electricians, firefighters. Construction workers gonna credit some massage therapy, some feet washing, some of that good, you know, body work. It's body is a temple for pleasure and purpose, and construction workers rock and roll, and let's build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border. That's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that love. And it's now gonna discuss the DRT to build the 4 and to regenerate the collective. The DRT, debt fusion theory, has to be implemented. Why do I make that statement? That it has to be, since due to the fact that in the past years during COVID, the interests have augmented. The interests have augmented by so much. In terms of proportion, you know. The proportion of the interests have augmented so much, increased, that the majority of the population has increased in record debt as well, parallel to the public debt, and the amount of public interest has increased exponentially. So check the numbers. With the Bank of Canada, Bank of Information is public. The interest percentages, but of course our GDP has not increased and kept up in terms of percentage. Our GDP has only increased by 1 or 2%. While every year, the increase in the rate of the interest paid on the public debt, sometimes it's 18, 20 something. So it adds up in the past 5 years, you know, it's so almost double, and so much interest paid in the past 5 years that has increased, of course, due to the coronavirus, the situation with the lockdowns and everything that we had to implement. So, but consequently, just the financial mathematical principle is not sustainable. The financial mathematical principle is not sustainable. That's why it's an emergency even. We need to implement my D, debt, R, refusion, T theory. Look at the moon. To my right is the moon, to my left now is the sun. Kind of like conjoined, you know. So it's an emergency. We are on the verge, maybe this Monday, Tuesday, just before the full moon hits. Right before the full moon. Today is the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, 10th. Wednesday is the full moon, 11th. Maybe on the June full moon, June, economic crash, stock market crash, public finances of Canada collapse. Parallel, of course, with the public financial collapse is also, of course, the public and the private financial collapse. So consequently, it could be both. It could be both, you know. It could be both simultaneously. So that is why we gotta do it. That's what we gotta get doing on the drill, you know. It could be both simultaneously with that, and that's what we gotta get drilling with that, you know. It could be both simultaneously, and that's what we gotta get doing with the XYZ and the LOV, and that's what we gotta get on that financing and implementing the DRT, which is gonna require public-private partnership, just like my dream is a public-private partnership. When I say pledge your allegiance, I mean it. Our family, please, friends with benefits only from now on. Friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. You know, friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only, you know. Friends with benefits only. Oops. So we gotta get that DRT, you know. I'm not gonna cross on the other side. I'm gonna enter because I really need to hydrate. So I'm getting a bit on that perched. Turn your heads left and right before you cross the street. And that's all we got. And that's all we gotta get on that love. And so we gotta get doing on that love side of thing to see it here. And gotta get it for now. And gotta get it for the XYZ. And that's all we gotta get drilling with that. And gonna see, you know, XYZ to get it loving and to get it financed and to get it doing and to get it for the Canadian Armed Forces here, CAF, Canadian Armed Forces, and that's all we gotta do, and that's all we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta get rock and rolling, you know. So here, Canadian Armed Forces, that's all we gotta get doing with the XYZ. Gotta paint it red. Gotta do a lot of painting there, and put it for the Canadian Armed Forces, some loving, some applause, you know. Gotta be thinking about them, gotta meditating about them, and that's all we gotta get doing, you know. For the X, for the Z, for the Y, and for the workers, the bakers, the nurses, and the doctors, the electricians, and the plumbers, and those beautiful yellow flowers we had, and that's all we gotta get doing, you know. For the flowers, and here the Canadian Armed Forces, gotta get that Dragon Army, aka the North American Imperial SSD Legion, Security Service and Defense Legion, the SSD Security Service and Defense Legion, the SSD Security Service and Defense Legion. That's what it is with that. That's what it is with the XYZ, you know. And then which we got, so the DRT, you know, the refusion theory, you know. Gotta implement it. It's a must because we're on the verge of a financial collapse, and the record debt has, of course, skyrocketed. Not just for the public, but for the private. Not just for the public, but for the private. The private debt has increased so much that, of course, we had to implement those protocols due to COVID, but they're not sustainable because our economy did not increase parallel in a similar manner by the same proportion. That's what we gotta get doing. So, due to the fact that it has not increased by the same proportion, that is just how it is. So that is just the fundamentals behind it. You know, those are just the fundamentals behind it, you know. Those are just the fundamentals behind that. And of course they have not increased in the same parallel level that they have increased, of course, the exponential problematic coronavirus, which I survived, you know. Since then, I live carpe diem every day with hope for tomorrow when I see people hugging, dancing, and acts of goodness and kindness, and firefighters, and the butchers, and the bakers, and the nurses, and the electricians, and the plumbers, and all those involved, you know, in the production, distribution of food, and all that stuff. So we gotta get going with that, and that's what we gotta get doing now, you know. On beautiful flowers there, and so we gotta get doing, you know. So XYZ and gotta get going on the go, you know. I don't know. And so we gotta get drilling, you know. DRT, debt refusion theory, super important. I discuss it fully now. So the debt refusion theory stands for D debt, R refusion, T for theory. It of course incorporates the monetary integration theory. The monetary integration theory. The monetary integration theory. Hey, look at the bunny, bunny, bunny. Hop, hop, hop. See, that's why I make the call not to pollute here. Don't pollute because we got so much flora fauna. And that bunny, hop, hop, hop. H.O.P, don't worry, I'm not gonna hunt you. I got bread and some sausage and some cheese in the fridge and some ketchup, so I'm good. And some noodles and some food that could, in theory, I could stretch out for maybe 44 days. So I don't need to hunt the bunny, rabbit. You know, that would be extreme, you know. But hey, we had this 3 days ago, 4 days ago, almost 5 days ago already, that there was a report of bioterrorism, agroterrorism. There was supposedly some guy got arrested with the potential to decimate some agricultural crops, which is enough to decimate a portion, and then if you got 10%, 15, 20, 25% of, or even 10% of the food supplies in the negative, 10%. I'm gonna say Canada, United States, because we're in the 63, the Dragonomy, and this together. Let's get rid of the border. We need to get the Dragonomy new 911 protocols and my debt refusion treaty. But 10% of Canada, let's say 44 million. 10% is 4.4 million, and 340 million. You know, that's 34. You know, that's 34. 34 million. That's what it is. You know, 34 million. You know, so either with 4.4, that's another 44 million maybe. You know, that is gonna be affected. You know, that's what it is. You know, so that's what it is. You know, the DRT theory. That's what we gotta get doing. You know, so the debt refusion theory. The debt refusion theory is something which we gotta get doing for the XYZ, and that's what we gotta get doing. That's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on that. That's how we gotta get doing for the liberty and the freedom, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and so we're gonna get on there drilling with that, and we gotta get on the love side of things, and we gotta get doing for the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, and the doctors, the firefighters, the electricians, and the plumbers, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food. And I'm gonna hydrate and discuss the DRT and then switch it to French. But again, we're vulnerable, eh? We're vulnerable. We're vulnerable. We're vulnerable. We're vulnerable. You know, that's how we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta get it on the drill, and we gotta get it on now to do it, and here we gotta get drilling. And see, we got plenty of people now. Usually when I come, there's nobody here. You know, there's nobody here, which we have, and there's almost nobody here. Usually when I come during the winter, you know, when I come during the winter. So that's all we got, man. I'm grateful, thankful. Gonna wait a bit. Gonna wait. Imagine how it's built. Sometimes I meditate how it was built and how they built all the public works underneath the North American Collectif. I gotta take on the medicine. That's how we gotta get drilling, you know. Imagine. Sometimes I meditate all across North America Collectif, how they were built and how they were going on that rock and roll to build, you know. So usually 10 seconds will suffice to clean the pipes. I double it. I do about 20 seconds, you know. Because you never know, there might be residue and what have you for that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the go, you know, for the XYZ, and we gotta get doing for the love, and gotta get doing for the now, man. Go get hydration. HYDRAT. Oh yeah. Oh, that feels so good. That's what I needed, to do a little bit of that hydration. So here, if you like hockey, you can check these skates. See? These skates are Jean-Beliveau when he said he marked his 500 goal and go Oilers, go Oilers, go Oilers, go. Right, it's in Canada. This is 11th of February 1971. 1971, 11th of February. 1971, 11th of February 1971. You can see that there. He got two in the hand. See how it's visible? They're drinking one each, and they're having two in the same. So how is they drinking? Switching the hands? Because the other one hand is there. So maybe switching the hands or drinking both at the same time. I'm not sure. Anyways, if you like hockey, 11th of February 1971, and I'm excited about those Oilers now. Those Oilers on the go, but I'm gonna let that main out, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, and that's how we're gonna get drilling, So that's how we're gonna get doing, That's how we're gonna get on the go, Gonna get a little bit of that BRT, Yeah. Indifference. I'm not indifferent. It's not your... I'm not indifferent. It's not. It's your indifference.
What do I do? Hello? You haven't found me, doctor?
I'm fucking indifferent. I'm not indifferent. I'm indifferent, man. I'm fucking... My God, our slaves. Thelema. Mm-hmm. We know. They're foresting. man. That's all. That's all. That's all. I'm gonna wait a bit until we get there and then discuss DRT. Let's go. Oh, I felt good. I felt good. Now we enter my second home. My second home. Oh yeah. You gotta be careful. Careful here though. Let's say you gotta be careful with that, and let's say you gotta be on the go, you know. Here we go. Let's go. Rock and roll. On the left, on the right, on the go, on the left, on the right. That's what we're gonna get doing with that, and that's what we're gonna get doing, you know. So something which we gotta get doing with that, and gonna discuss the DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE. DRT, we have to implement it. The DRT, the refusion theory, for the creation of the UE. So we're gonna have to take all the public and the private debt, and again keep in mind that the DRT is the solution. There's no other solution. Well, it has to resemble my DRT theory fundamentally. But other than that, there's no other solution but my DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE. So because due to COVID, we had record-breaking interest, record-breaking interest, which we paid on the public and the private debt. That's why, of course, but this relates most to the public, more to the public. and that's what they got, more closely related to the public debt. But of course, it is a fundamental aspect that the proportion of the interest rates have increased so much that of course the increase makes it that it's not sustainable due to the fact that our economy has not, of course, has not increased by the same proportion and same rates. So due to the fact that the economy has not increased by the same proportion and same rates, that's why we're going to have to cut and reduce. I'm asking Uncle Carney, worked in finance banking, what are we going to cut, reduce? Because the mathematical principle, due to the fact that in the past 5 years, our interest rates, the interest levels which we paid on the public debt has increased consequently every time there has been an increase. So that is where the problem fundamentally lies, that it's not sustainable to the fact that economically our economy did not double and did not increase in proportion to, of course, the rates, which of course the amount of interest which we paid, of course, on the public debt has fundamentally stagnated. So that's why we have to implement the DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the universal exchange unit. And that's what we gotta get doing with that. The debt refusion theory, we have to implement it for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit. And that's why you gotta get consequently to be on the prudent side of things, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's why we gotta get rolling, you know. So we have to get on the good side in the 21st century, and we have to implement the DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the universal exchange unit. So of course, consequently, my DRT integrates monetary integration theory, MIT monetary integration theory is of course the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union, of course, in the 90s, you know. The Europeans, of course, they implemented their financial theory back in the 90s. And so consequently, due to that fact, it was, of course, the point in being that we have to implement, because we're on the verge of a public and private financial collapse, because both for the United States and Canada, we have reached record levels of indebtedness. Even now, credit cards are maxed out record in the past days, weeks, and months. And last year, in November, there was reports for both Canada and the United States of record-breaking interest. As we are now at top of the mountain, Mount Royal, my second home, somebody across the 63, 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories is swiping, and you're already in debt, and prices have increased and the salaries have stagnated. So we are on the verge of an economic, financial, commercial collapse, catastrophe. My DRT is the solution. DRT or something similar. Inside my DRT is integrated monetary integration theory, like I stated, and monetary integration theory was the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. In the 90s, the Germans, they destroyed their national central banks. The Italians, they destroyed their national central banks. The French also, they destroyed their national central banks, and they now have a common central bank, the ECB, the European Central Bank, which issues the euro. And of course, in a parallel life, I know everything to know about science, technology, and I know what this operates, how that operates, but in this life is geopolitics, and when you study geopolitics, you got to know a little bit about economic, finance, and commerce, and the DRT is the solution. You can argue all you want, but it's the solution or something similar. There's fundamentally no way out of where we are now in terms of the economy. Economically speaking, there's no way out of the financial mess, I'm going to say mess, where we find ourselves now in this 2025 and June 6th here. Myself, I got $10,000 in debt as well. So the DRT going to explain it. Again, what are we going to cut, Uncle Connie? What are we going to reduce? What are we going to cut in the budget? The RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Federal Police, the sanitation, the defense, national security, defense, or we're going to cut the police, the prisons, you know, so correctional facility. Just a few weeks ago, not so long ago, was thousands of jobs in the Immigration Canada. So I think it's related to the fact that, you know, this is not sustainable. We got too much interest. too much interest, which is of course the fact. The point is that we pay too much interest. So that is just what it is, too much interest, and that's why we gotta be on the go now. The fact that we pay so much interest is something which we have to fix ASAP, as soon as possible. There's no way out of the situation which we are now. There's no way out of the situation where we find ourselves now. But my DRT theory, and of course it's for millions and millions and millions and hundreds of millions of people, for the 63, the 10 provinces, 50 states and 3 territories. That's all we gotta get doing, and that's all we gotta get rock and rolling. So the debt refusion theory incorporates the monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union, right? In the European Union, and of course was implemented in the European Union. And my DRT theory also integrates that theory. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, my $10,000, your $10,000, my, whatever the case may be, your 10,000, my 10,000, your 10,000, whatever the case may be, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're gonna convert all the public and the private debt into US dollars, and all that debt, we're gonna of course create it and convert it into all the public private debt of Canada. We're gonna convert it into US dollars, either with the US. All that money, because it has to be implemented in my DRT theory, has to be implemented the debt refusion theory across the 63 binational Canada and United States. We're in a very similar financial, commercial, economic situation for both the public and the private in both Canada and United States. So it has to be implemented binational. So all the public-private debt of Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, we're going to convert it into US dollars. All that debt, we're going to add it with the United States. We're going to add it with the United States. All that debt, we're going to add it with the United States. And that debt, of course, we're going to convert it into US dollars. All that debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. All that debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars, right? So all that debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to add it with all the US public-private debt, and all that public-private debt of Canada and United States conjoined is going to be the initial money supply with all the other money in circulation for a new central bank in the North American complex. We're going to issue a new currency called the UE. U.Universal, U.Exchange, U.UE, the U.Universal, U.Exchange, U.UE, U.Universal, U.Exchange, U.UE, the U.Universal, U.Exchange, U.Unit, the UE, the UE, the U.Universal, U.Exchange, U.UE. The universal exchange is going to have the value of US dollar. We're going to send an interest rate level of 10%. We can be below 10%, 3.33, 7.18, 4.18, 6.1, 1.56. It can be below 10, but not more. So for the 63, we're going to do lots of good with that money. With the implementation of my DRT theory, we're going to rebuild the infrastructure, the bridges, the aqueducts. We're going to, of course, mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise. Mass finance the building construction of the 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. In case of a thermonuclear war, we got to build those 44 for the continuity of the North American civilizational complex based on one of my theories and protocols of which I've written back years and years and years ago. I started, most of my writings that I refer to predate me coming out of my depression in 2017, because I kind of began that, and then I've survived COVID 2020 and died and rebirthed a few times, I guess, and here today, June, in this March, another rebirth, I guess. So, well, most of my references which I make to theoretical analysis and philosophical initiatives, and mostly public-private partnership based, are coming from 2017 July onwards. Some are before that, but most of them date, and most of them even revised since February 2020. My work in the past 5 since I survived COVID, and my work prior to that in 2017. So that's what we gotta get doing. That's why we gotta get on that rock and roll with that. So that's how we gotta get on the love aspect of things, and that's how we gotta get doing, here for the North American Collective, for the North American Civilizational Collective. We gotta be implementing that, and that's what we gotta get as soon as possible. We gotta formulate to implement the DRT, because we're on a point of a national emergency. We're on the verge of a public financial collapse. We are on the verge of a public financial collapse. It could happen Monday and Tuesday the 10th, or of course on the 11th. On the 11th. On the 11th. On the 11th. That's what we are, and that's what we're gonna do, and that's what we're gonna get doing on the XYZ, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that, and so we're gonna get rock and rolling, you know. So that's what we gotta be doing here, I guess. I don't bring any mosquito, but mosquitoes gonna get eaten if they try to eat me, that's for sure. And here, the DRT, you know, the death refusion tea, the DRT, the death refusion tea for the creation of the UE is something that I present, and of course on the table along with those kisses, laying the foundations for the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom. It's pledge your allegiance to our family, and here, you know, be careful when you come here, the branches might fall, and you know, now it's not that dark, but I know this mountain, but it's from a past life, and here, I roamed in many past lives, many incarnations atop this mountain, and until now today, this is my second home. June 2020, June 6, 2025, the DRT, death refusion theory, has to be implemented across the North American collective. It's pledge your allegiance, friends with benefits only. That's why we gotta get rock and roll, and we're gonna create the universal exchange unit, the universal exchange unit. That's how we're gonna get doing with that, and we're gonna create the UE, do lots of good, mass finance fitness, mass finance the building of the 44, mass finance tourism across the 63. We're gonna get rid of the border. It's the public security is wrong there. It's not there at the border. We gotta secure coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Gotta get rid of the border. Implement my new 911 Dragon Army for total security, total service, total defense. Create this Dragon Army for the 63. Integrated for the 10 provinces, 50 states and 3 territories. Fuse for the new immobilize 1%, and create the Dragon Army, aka the North American Imperial SSD Legion, to only serve for SSD security, service and defense. Only serve for SSD security, service and defense, and of course only and only serve for SSD security, service and defense across the 63 for the 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories, and of course it's gonna be integrated, and we're gonna integrate it, and that's how we're gonna rock and roll with that. And here we're gonna get on that drill, and gonna get it for the left, for the right, for the butchers, for the bakers, for the nurses, for the doctors, for the firefighters, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food. Here we're gonna build a pyramid, forgotten goddess temple. Also the dragon scarlet, crimson scarlet, and we're gonna switch a bit on that French because we're in La Belle Province, and we're gonna get those cadences, and that's how we're gonna get on that rock and roll. Here we're gonna forgotten goddess and the dragon temple. So we're gonna get drilling with that, and that's how we're gonna get luck and rolling. We're gonna get on that go, and that's how we gotta get doing it also. It's something which we have to be implementing here for the North American collective, and I think McGill playing, or some of those Alouettes Friday, and don't tell me it's the game tonight. Oilers, I think it's tomorrow. I hope it's tomorrow, because I don't want to miss it. So it's Oilers go, and you know how we drill it with the Oilers, and that's how we gotta get on the Oilers side of things. And here we're gonna switch now to that French. Bienvenue, on est sur la montagne québécoise. Je vous encourage bien sûr à faire de l'entraînement physique. En vous encourageant de faire de l'entraînement physique, je dois commencer à dire ma gratitude. J'ai payé mon loyer, ma partie de XCP, puis on est avant le sabbat, le vendredi. J'espère que les Oilers joue pas aujourd'hui, c'est demain, j'espère la game, parce que j'ai déjà sur la montagne, je voulais ça la voir, sinon je la visionnais dès que je rentre chez nous, parce qu'ils ont gagné la premier match, là. Le premier match qu'ils ont gagné, c'était bien sûr un bon match, c'était allé en temps supplémentaire, puis c'était un excellent match, là, des séries. C'était un des meilleurs matchs que j'ai vu de ma mémoire, là, parce que vous savez que quand je retourne en arrière dans ma vie, là, c'est sûr que je peux m'en souvenir de 9 ans, 10 ans, 11 ans, puis après ça, j'ai comme une noirceur, comme un blackout, puis c'est des choses que moi-même, je dois vivre avec ici, là, puis bien sûr, je dois célébrer, parce que j'ai survécu la COVID en 2020, février, fait que je dois vivre comme je vis au quotidien depuis que j'ai survécu la COVID. Je pensais vraiment que c'était mon dernier chapitre, là. Je pensais vraiment que j'allais mourir, fait que depuis ce temps-là de la COVID, bien sûr, je vis au quotidien, puis j'ai l'espoir. Tantôt, je viens de voir du monde qui se sont donné des bisous, des chatouilles, puis des câlins, fait que ça me donne toujours l'espoir pour le monde libre. C'est pour ça que je chante du rock'n'roll, puis le sport que je préfère, c'est la danse. Et bien sûr que juste dans le social, j'ai de la misère, je suis Aspi, j'ai l'Asperger, ça. Et cette condition de neurodivergence fait que j'ai de la misère dans les interactions sociales. Pour nous, les Asperger peuvent être étranges un peu de la manière qu'on communique. Là. La manière de communication peut être un peu étrange, bizarre dans le contexte qu'on a cette déficience, on n'est pas si bon dans la compréhension de la société. Puis c'est pas l'Asperger, c'est pas une maladie mentale, c'est une condition de neurodivergence. C'est que notre cerveau, il y a des mutations. Fait que je dois toujours bâtir comme des ponts parce que je fais partie de cette petite communauté qui n'est c'est pas une grosse communauté, c'est moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'un pourcentage, c'est 0,44%. 0,44% de la population ont l'Asperger, ça fait qu'il n'y en a pas bien, même bien des gens qui ne savent pas c'est quoi, tu sais. Vous savez c'est quoi la dépression, l'anxiété, c'est pas une maladie mentale, c'est ça, ça rentre sur le spectre de l'autisme, mais c'est pas une maladie mentale dans le sens d'une maladie, c'est une condition de neurodivergence, on a des mutations qui se sont produites dans le cerveau, au niveau du cerveau, mais la cause est inconnu vraiment, un part c'est génétique, héréditaire, puis un part c'est l'environnement. Puis nous les aspis, les choses comme l'espace personnel, on a tendance à briser l'espace personnel, on a tendance de s'approcher tellement proche de la personne de quelqu'un parle, puis ça peut intimider, ça peut causer de la confusion, ça peut causer un peu d'angoisse, de malheur, tu sais. D'angoisse puis de malheur, tu sais. Fait que ça peut causer ces choses-là d'angoisse puis de malheur dans les gens, tu sais. Dans les gens, ça peut causer de l'angoisse et de la malheur, ou même ça peut... Puis il y a bien encore des citoyens qui confondent l'Asperger, cette condition de neurodivergence avec une maladie mentale. C'est juste qu'on a certaines caractéristiques qui peuvent sembler étranges, puis c'est pas des symptômes, parce que si j'utilise le mot symptôme, c'est sûr que ça rend pas justice vraiment à ce que c'est l'Asperger, parce que c'est des caractéristiques. C'est juste que nous, on a quand même on peut être très fort dans nos intérêts spéciaux, aussi connus comme les intérêts obsessifs. Puis moi-même, quand ça vient dans mon intérêt spécial, c'est la géopolitique, et je suis moi-même un analyste théoricien en géopolitique. Je dois dire que je prends beaucoup de fierté dans mon travail en géopolitique. J'ai même prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant, en 2019. Puis pour faire un résumé, c'est que j'avais conclu qu'à cause qu'il y avait des conflits non résolus du 20e siècle, que ces conflits-là, ils vont reprendre dans le 21e siècle. Puis c'est ça qui arrive en Ukraine puis la Russie, hein. C'est des conflits qui datent de la guerre froide, ça, qui a duré quand même quasiment 45 ans, plus que 44 ans, entre 1947 et 1991. Là. Fait qu'imaginez-vous, tu sais, c'est parallèlement, c'est quand cette idée qu'on a de qu'est-ce que c'est encore l'Asperger, c'est une condition de neurodivergence, puis moi j'ai mes forces quand ça vient à la géopolitique. Je suis un analyste théoricien en géopolitique, puis même que j'ai la preuve, j'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant en 2019 d'une manière générale, là. C'est sûr qu'il n'y a pas tous les détails, là. Ben c'est possible qu'une troisième... J'ai prévu comme une troisième guerre mondiale, puis c'était moitié-moitié de probabilité d'avoir une guerre nucléaire, c'était la moitié-moitié-moitié, c'était 50-50, mais c'était 2/3 pour avoir de guerre biologique. Fait que les armes biologiques, c'était plus élevé. Puis qu'est-ce qu'on a vu là, 5 jours, 4-5 jours, 4-5, quasiment 5, là, qu'on a vu qu'aux États-Unis, on a arrêté des citoyens de la Chine qui, probablement, avaient fait de l'agroterrorisme. Il y avait des armes biologiques qui auraient touché la production alimentaire. Puis moi, je ne suis pas de la droite ni de la gauche, je suis un centriste. Je suis un démocrate républicain-démocrate, 50-50. Un centriste, mais mon centrisme il est pro-révolutionnaire, universel et nord-américain centrique. Parce que moi, je suis pour la fusion du Canada, parce que du Canada, du Québec et du Canada avec les États-Unis, mais à ma manière, par un partenariat public-privé fort. Puis ma trinité de théorie, parce qu'il faut dire, le roi est absent, puis il faut être réaliste. On a vu que l'économie canadienne a souffert, là, perdu des milliards, puis ça a perdu 10% à cause. 85% de nos biens vont aux États-Unis. Fait qu'on a un océan et à l'autre. Ma manière de fusionner les États-Unis et le Canada, c'est mieux, parce que le roi est absent. Puis il faut le dire, tu sais, Mais moi, j'ai dû apprendre parce qu'à cause de l'Asperger's, l'autisme mouvement fonctionnel, j'ai mes vulnérabilités moi aussi. Hein. Merci à mon ami anonyme qui m'avait donné des livres pour apprendre que je suis différent des gens parce que ça faisait bien des années comme on l'avait dit, bien longtemps, plusieurs personnes, juste voilà 3 ans et demi, voilà 4 ans, voilà 3 ans et demi, voilà 4 ans, que bien sûr, voilà 3 ans et demi, voilà 4 ans, voilà 3 ans et demi, voilà 4 ans, que j'ai accepté que je suis différent, que j'ai l'Asperger's. Parce que pendant longtemps, je ne voulais pas l'accepter à cause c'était quand même un stigme, tu sais, quand même, tu sais, puis même maintenant, là, dans le 21e siècle, il y a plus de stigmatisation, de démystification de qu'est-ce que c'est l'Asperger's. C'est pas une maladie mentale, c'est ça. On a les mutations dans le cerveau, puis les choses, l'interprétation, le non-verbal de la société, quand savoir les émotions, savoir quand parler, par exemple, savoir quand parler, quand ne pas parler, quand écouter, c'est plus difficile. Ça peut être difficile, puis c'est pas par volonté, des fois, on peut être direct. On peut être direct, mais c'est pas parce qu'on veut offenser, c'est juste des fois on est direct, puis dans certaines réponses, que ce soit politique, culturelle, économique, financièrement, c'est juste cette différence qu'il faut toujours que je travaille parce que tu sais, je fais partie de cette petite communauté, puis on n'est pas beaucoup, hein? 0,44%, puis vous êtes les 99,56%, hein? La majorité des gens. Fait que faut toujours que je construis, que je bâtis des ponts. Que je bâtis, puis je construis des ponts. Que je bâtis, bâtir et construire des ponts. Faut toujours bâtir et construire des ponts. Puis bien sûr, parallèlement, que je suis neurodivergent, je fais partie de la communauté LGBTQ, je suis androgyne pansexuel, je suis un philosophe mystique, je crois à la réincarnation, des fois j'étais née québécoise, femme, mais avant le Québec d'aujourd'hui, là, avant la chasse-galerie, 156 ans avant la chasse-galerie, fait que j'ai pas vu le diable, j'ai pas fait de pacte avec. Je suis pour la déesse, plus une prêtresse de l'ancienne Rome, ancienne Égypte aussi. Des fois j'ai été né femme, homme, puis fermier, guerrier, légionnaire de Légion de Rome, chanteur, construction, homme-femme plusieurs fois. Fait que maintenant, mais ça a équilibré, c'est un équilibre 50-50. Ben c'est ça. Mes réincarnations à part, mon côté spirituel à part, je dois dire aujourd'hui, je peux parler de la géopolitique, de la dispute de Trump et Elon Musk. L'homme le plus riche au monde, Elon Musk, un homme de science. Et bien sûr, je sais pas, il paraît que lui aussi, il a peut-être l'Asperger's. Mais il n'y a pas beaucoup d'Asperger's dans le monde. Fait que je ne sais pas s'il est Asperger's. C'est possible qu'il soit. Ben, mais c'est un des rares Asperger's parce que chez les Aspi, moi-même, je suis en crise financière. Mais le problème chez nous, c'est ma communauté, je dois le dire, là, le taux de chômage, le taux de sans-emploi, c'est élevé. Là, c'est très haut chez nous. On est une petite minorité communauté, c'est entre 60 et 80%. Là. Imaginez-vous, c'est 11 fois plus que la population normale, vous. Que c'est entre 4 et 8 et 9, 10%. Nous, c'est entre 60 et 80%. Là. J'ai eu bien de l'emploi, j'ai bien aimé durant les 7 ans, j'ai eu bien de l'emploi, j'ai bien aimé avoir de l'emploi, mais à cause que c'est différent. Fait que c'est l'Asperger's. Chez nous, c'est ma petite minorité de communauté de 0,44%, mais le problème, c'est un taux de sans-emploi très élevé. Trop, là. C'est 11 fois plus que la population normale. À cause, encore une fois, c'est une malcompréhension. Qu'est-ce que c'est l'Asperger? C'est pas une maladie mentale. Nous, des fois, il faut nous le dire directement. T'sais. Mettons, prends une distance, t'es trop proche, je m'inquiète, puis moi, j'aime pas la violence. Je suis hyper vigilant moi-même. J'ai vécu, je me suis fait attaquer par surprise. Je suis tombé, je me suis cogné ma tête, puis j'avais le bras droit disloqué. Puis j'étais tout ensanglé. J'étais allé à l'hôpital général juif, puis ils m'ont placé sur des médicaments et des belles petites fleurs. Dans la forêt ici, faites attention, parce que des fois les branches tombent, fait que je vous mets en prudence. Fait que j'étais tout ensanglé, puis j'étais mis sur des médicaments. J'étais dans un coma, comme pendant un couple de jours, j'étais dans un coma, là. Pendant un couple de jours dans un coma, puis j'habitais dans une petite place à Côte-des-Neiges, c'était comme une cellule de prison. Il y avait beaucoup de moisissures, là. Il y avait beaucoup de moisissures. Moi, ça, c'était comme une petite cellule de prison, vraiment, là. C'était comme une petite cellule de prison, là, vraiment. C'était comme une petite cellule de prison, tu sais. Puis bien sûr, dans ces petites cellules de prison, cette petite cellule de prison, mais je m'en souviens avoir déménagé, puis je m'en souviens bien, j'ai une bonne mémoire des 8, 9, 10. Puis ça, après 11, ça, c'est comme une noirceur de perte de mémoire aussi. C'est tellement... Je sais pas si je faisais de la drogue ou je buvais, j'étais alcoolique peut-être, je buvais de la drogue, mais j'ai ces flashs de traume, ces cicatrices sur mon corps, toutes ces choses-là. Mais qu'est-ce que je sais, c'est qu'en 2017, j'ai traversé le Canada. Ça. 2017, ça fait plus que 7 ans. Puis avant ça, j'étais en dépression et suicidaire. Puis ça, encore une fois, chez les Aspergers, les Aspi comme moi, une petite communauté de 0,44%. Chez nous, le taux de sans-emploi est très élevé, puis le taux de suicidaire, puis de dépression est très élevé, là. 9 fois plus que vous, la majorité de la population. 9 fois. C'est beaucoup, 9 fois là, plus. Fait que vous imaginez, c'est à cause de cette isolation, ce rejet qu'on vit de la société. On est isolé, on est rejeté, on est ces choses-là, tu sais, qu'on je dois vivre. Fait que je vis avec mes cicatrices moi-même. Fait la perte de mémoire, ben, c'est pas vraiment important, là, parce que, tu sais, 11 ans, je suis pas la même personne que j'étais quand j'ai eu la COVID. Après, avant la COVID, moi, ça recommence. Je failli mourir où j'habite maintenant, une meilleure place où j'habite maintenant. J'ai failli mourir où j'habite, là. Je suis mort là, puis je suis en train de renaître dans ma deuxième maison, mais de la COVID, tu sais, fait que c'est des choses comme ça que je dois faire, fait que pour dire, tu sais, que je suis ici, puis je vous en pas en parler trop, mais de l'Asperger, juste pour sachez que c'est pas une maladie mentale, puis les Aspi comme moi, il faut qu'on soit encouragés dans les intérêts spéciaux, puis moi, bien sûr, c'est la géopolitique, 24/24, le sport, l'entraînement physique, là-dedans, c'est le sport que je préfère, et bien sûr, le rock'n'roll, fait que, en faisant ces choses-là, vous encouragez les Aspergers, comment vous pourriez, puis là, je veux pas tarder, je veux juste discuter de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, bien sûr, c'est quelque chose qu'il faut que je la discute, parce que c'est un paradoxe, là, que ça sort de l'Asperger, c'est une malédiction que j'ai vécue, ça vient quelque chose de bon, là, pour moi, pour nous tous, là, pour le collectif des 63, les 10 provinces, 50 États et 3 territoires. La TRD, bien sûr, on vit une situation de crise moi-même, tu sais. Je vis une situation de crise vis-à-vis les finances. Vis-à-vis les finances, tu sais, vis-à-vis les finances. Moi-même, vis-à-vis les finances, je suis en crise financière, donc c'est quelque chose que moi-même, je dois le répéter de la manière, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on aille dans ce point de convergence où on est rendu maintenant, pour dire, bien sûr, que on doit faire encore une fois, implémenter ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Puis je vous l'explique, c'est quoi? Dans ma TRD, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire, bien sûr, la théorie d'intégration monétaire, c'est la théorie que les Européens ont fait l'implémentation dans la communauté européenne, dans l'Europe, en Europe. C'est ça qu'ils ont fait dans les années 90 et bien sûr, ils ont fait l'implémentation dans les années 90. Puis encore une fois, chez les Aspi, le problème aussi, c'est garder des amis, mais maintenant, je veux juste des amis avec bénéfice, échange de massage, puis la chanson rock'n'roll, c'est prêter allégeance, les gens, vous êtes famille, c'est des mon rêve qui se manifeste comme le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse et que je fonde avec des milliards de bisous crédités par la déesse. Puis c'est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé pour les 63, les 10 provinces, 50 États et 3 territoires, les 63. Donc, il faut faire ce point de convergence qu'on est rendu à le faire aujourd'hui. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, super important. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette qui inclut la théorie d'intégration monétaire. La TRD, qu'est-ce que c'est la TRD? Théorie R, refusion de la dette. C'est la théorie, bien sûr, que les Européens ont fait l'implémentation dans les années 90 en faisant l'implémentation de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Donc, je vous l'explique. Fait qu'on va devoir prendre toute la dette public-privé, toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000, toute la dette publique-privée, on va devoir prendre toute la dette publique-privée, fait que il faut qu'on fasse l'implémentation. Pourquoi je me prononce de même? Ben, car l'année passée, là, durant les 5 années qui viennent passer depuis février 2020, on a payé un record de dette. On a payé un record de dette. C'était un record de dette qu'on a payé. La dette s'est augmentée, c'est sûr qu'à cause des protocoles qu'on a dû implémenter durant la COVID, les protocoles qu'on a dû implémenter, bien sûr à cause de la crise de la coronavirus, que moi-même j'ai survécu, puis bien sûr, la dette a augmenté tant qu'elle est dans le public. On est à veille d'avoir un effondrement des finances publiques. On est à veille d'avoir un effondrement dans les finances publiques, bien sûr. Dans les finances publiques, on est à la veille d'avoir un effondrement à cause que l'intérêt seulement a tellement augmenté que ça n'a pas tenu. On ne peut pas soutenir ça à cause que l'économie n'a pas augmenté de telle manière que l'intérêt sur la dette a augmenté depuis février 2020 à cause des protocoles, des programmes et des initiatives qu'on a dû implémenter pendant le temps, quand c'était fermé, là, la fermeture, le lockdown, puis le vaccin et toute la crise de la coronavirus que moi-même j'ai eu, puis je me suis fait vacciner 3 fois. Donc, je vous encourage de garder le protocole d'hygiène quand même dans le public, c'est important parce que là, avec une nouvelle vague de coronavirus en Inde puis en Chine, c'est possible que ça nous frappe. Puis, je sais pas, ils ont dit, il y a eu une révision, puis on dit que ça a été fait finalement en Chine. Je sais pas, c'est-tu vrai peut-être? C'était-tu une arme biologique? Moi, je sais pas, je pense que ça a été transmis par les serpents. J'ai une doute, je ne peux pas me prononcer 100%. Qu'est-ce que je sais? C'est qu'avant le coronavirus, moi-même, j'ai créé un propre système d'entraînement physique, puis j'avais une conclusion que l'humanité se dirige vers une conflagration internationale. Donc, les armes biologiques peuvent être une chance, peuvent être utilisées. 50-50 sur le nucléaire. J'étais 50-50 sur le nucléaire, 2 tiers sur les armes bio. Bon, ça, je ne peux pas savoir. Je pense que c'est les serpents, mais j'ai une doute, donc je peux pas dire non à une autre théorie, des origines de la coronavirus, de la COVID. Je ne peux pas dire non à une autre théorie, même à une arme biologique. Je ne peux pas le dire non parce que c'est possible que c'était ça, une arme biologique. C'est possible. Je ne peux pas dire non, je peux dire, moi je pense que c'est les serpents, je l'ai eu, j'étais dans le lit, j'étais malade, je pensais que j'allais mourir, j'ai des dates je crève, amenez-moi sur la montagne, un tiers de moi sur la montagne, un tiers de moi avec Aleister Crowley, un tiers de moi avec Aleister Crowley, et un tiers de moi, bien sûr, avec Aleister Crowley, et un autre tiers, bien sûr, un autre tiers, bien sûr, qui a les pyramides. Bon, juste pour dire encore une fois, bien sûr, dans la pointe de convergence, là, il faut que je discute la TRD, je ne vais pas tarder, la théorie de la refusion de la dette. Super important, bien sûr, que je la discute, parce que c'est une solution, c'est un paradoxe que ça sort de cette malédiction que j'ai vécue moi-même de l'isolation, la perte des amis, ayant cette condition de l'Asperger's, mais dans certaines choses, on a la force, surtout nos intérêts spéciaux qui préoccupent notre routine, notre rituel du quotidien. On a une routine, moi ça ne me dérange pas le changement, surtout économique, financier, commercial, là, mais on a une routine. Moi, c'est la géopolitique, le matin, l'après-midi, le rock'n'roll, la danse. 24 sur 24, ces intérêts-là, vous voulez parler de la géopolitique, il va voir qu'on s'assoit pendant des heures, puis prenez-les pas personnels, hein. C'est mon intérêt spécial, c'est comme une encyclopédie, puis pas juste ça, une théorie, un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique, je le sais, qui a prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant, je dois le dire, avec fierté en plus, mais les autres choses dans le social, dans les choses comme ça, je suis pas très doué dans ça, là. Je suis bon en rock'n'roll, vous chantez du rock'n'roll, puis à la danse, puis je suis androgyne pansexuel, puis le bon samaritain le plus que je le suis, là, mais à part ça, je suis pas mal nul dans d'autres choses médiocres, comme ça, et c'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je le fasse dans l'environnement où je vis maintenant, mais la gratitude, j'ai payé mon loyer, j'ai payé ma facture d'électricité, j'ai du café, du thé, puis je dois dire, me faire une petite plainte, parce que les bonbons, les chocolats que j'achète, la semaine passée, je les ai achetés encore à 50 cents, 2 pour $1. Là, ça a augmenté à 63. Fait que j'ai fait le calcul tantôt en anglais. Fait que le calcul, c'était là, que ça a augmenté de ça a augmenté bien sûr de 13 cents. 13 cents par 50 cents pour calculer, parce qu'une unité, c'est 100%, donc 50 fois 2, bien sûr, c'est 100 cents pour le dollar, donc 13, ça veut dire 63 moins 50, c'est 13 cents. Donc l'augmentation de 50 à 63 cents, c'est 13, mais il faut faire fois 2 pour le pourcentage, donc c'est 26%. La proportion de la valeur sur le dollar, là, c'est fois 2, donc cette proportion pour calculer le pourcentage, c'est de même que ça se fait. Donc c'est chaque barre de chocolat a augmenté 26%. Mais vous imaginez que peut-être les salaires des gens là-bas, ils ont-ils augmenté de 26%? C'est pas beaucoup, là. La plupart, c'est 5%, 4% l'augmentation salariale, mais ces petites barres de chocolat, mais imaginez-vous, les coûts de la vie, ça augmente, puis là, un 26% là, sur une barre de chocolat, pour les jeunes qui ont des familles qui mangent, ils vont pouvoir se gâter moins. Moi, j'ai acheté moins. Mais moi, j'ai acheté moins. D'habitude, j'en achète 6 pour la fin de semaine. Là, j'ai acheté 4. À place d'acheter 6, j'ai acheté 4. Fait que j'ai coupé mon budget. À place d'acheter 6, j'ai acheté 4. Fait que moi-même, j'ai dû couper moi-même parce que je suis en crise financière, mais j'ai payé mon loyer, j'ai payé ma facture d'électricité, j'ai du café petit thé, mais c'était une augmentation de 26%. Je n'ai pas checké pour les autres biens parce que j'étais allé pour le sabbat, pour la fin de semaine, juste pour avoir ces petits gâteries après mon entraînement physique de plus que 6 heures. Là. Ça va être une grosse marche d'entraînement physique de 6 heures parce que mes marches sont longues, puis ça faisait 2 heures que j'étais déjà dedans là, avant que je commence à filmer. Là. J'ai commencé tard à filmer quand je suis parti. Ça faisait 2 heures et plus. Fait bon, en tout cas, ce petit plainte-là, mais c'est sûr que je peux pas dire vraiment, c'est-tu le dollarama qui a augmenté ou c'est-tu parce qu'ils importent de la Turquie? Ils importent de la Turquie. C'est-tu les importations de la Turquie? C'est-tu à cause de ça qui a augmenté? Fait que ça, je peux pas savoir à 100% c'est où, bien sûr. Je peux pas savoir à 100% c'est où et de quel bout que ça va faire, bien sûr, dans l'importation, bien sûr, pour le faire, bien sûr, dans les importations d'aujourd'hui. Et bien sûr, il faut le dire que 13 cents, ça même 26% d'augmentation. Tu sais. Il faut faire un calcul, là, c'est quand même quelque chose quand même adéquat. C'est pas, je veux dire, adéquat dans le sens que adéquat à la manière qu'on calcule, que je vais me prononcer que ça peut être difficile pour certains. Donc, c'est des choses qu'il faut dire, il faut le viser, bien sûr, dans ce compromis de l'affaire, bien sûr, de l'affaire de cette histoire d'augmentation. Puis cette réalité, dans le fond, c'est pas une histoire, c'est pas un conte, c'est une réalité du coût de la vie qui augmente. Donc, c'est pour ça que ça presse ma TRD, parce que l'augmentation de l'intérêt qu'on a payé sur la dette publique, parallèlement à la situation là, du public, ainsi que du privé, du citoyen moi-même, en étant en dette de 10 000, et les cartes de crédit, on a vu les jours, les semaines, les mois, l'année passée, on a eu Canada et États-Unis ensemble, on est dans une situation similaire économique similaire, financière, la même économie financièrement, et donc ça a fait bien sûr de l'augmentation, que ça a fait bien sûr dans le dire que c'est bien sûr une augmentation qui touche et on a un surendettement, c'est un record de cartes de crédit. Les gens sont surendettés. Un surendettement, c'est un record de cartes de crédit de dette. C'est un record de dette, d'endettement. La dette sur la dette publique, c'est un record. Fait que la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, il faut que je vous l'explique maintenant. Donc, c'est quoi la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette? On va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, on va faire une refusion. On va devoir prendre toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000. On va prendre de côte à côte, toute la dette publique-privée. Toute la dette publique-privée, on va faire la côte à côte. Et bien sûr, on va faire une augmentation de une conversion de toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, et bien sûr de côte à côte, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, ma dette de 10 000, ton 10 000, on va faire la conversion dans la devise des États-Unis, on va faire de l'addition avec la dette des États-Unis, fait que tout cet argent-là, ça va être la fondation pour une nouvelle banque. Comment qu'ils ont fait les Européens. Parce que dans ma TRD, comme je vous ai dit, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire, qui est la théorie que les Européens ont fait l'implémentation en Europe par la création de la Banque centrale de l'Europe. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette public-privé, mon 10 000, ton 10 000. On va faire la conversion, toute cette dette-là, toute ma dette publique-privée, on va faire la conversion de toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000. On va faire toute cette conversion de la dette publique du Canada, des États-Unis ensemble. Fait canadienne, la dette publique-privée du Canada, on va faire une conversion de toute la dette publique privée du Canada dans la devise des États-Unis. On va faire l'addition avec la dette des États-Unis ensemble. Tout cet argent-là, on va mettre ensemble. On va faire une nouvelle banque, la création d'une nouvelle banque, comment qu'on l'appelle, bien sûr. Ça peut être, bien sûr, n'importe quel nom, mais on va faire la création de l'unité d'échange universelle. U.unité, point échange, point universel. U.unité, point échange, point universel. Le UI. U.unité, point échange, point universel. Le UI. On va faire la création de cette nouvelle monnaie qui aura la valeur de $1 des États-Unis. Avec cet argent-là, on va mettre un taux d'intérêt de 10%. Ça ne pourra pas être plus que 10%. Ça pourrait être en bas, mais pas plus que 10% avec cet argent-là. Puis en faisant l'implémentation de ma TRD, on va rebâtir l'infrastructure du collectif de l'Amérique du Nord pour les 10 provinces, 50 États, 3 territoires. On va construire, bâtir les 44 tunnels, les 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une bombe thermonucléaire qui tombe, puis dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire, c'est possible. En Inde puis Pakistan, c'était vraiment proche. Le réarmement de l'Allemagne, le réarmement paradoxal du Japon aussi, c'est des choses que je vais discuter en géopolitique dans les jours, semaines, mois à venir. Là. Il faut prendre la défense. Puis moi, j'aime pas la violence, je suis hyper vigilant, mais je suis juste pour la défense de côte à côte. On va aussi fonder l'armée de la déesse et du dragon qui danse. L'armée du dragon, ça sera pour, bien sûr, la Ligue impériale de SSD, de sécurité, service et défense, qui aura juste pour but la SSD, sécurité, service et défense. Seulement pour la SSD, sécurité, service, défense, et basé sur mes protocoles, les nouveaux protocoles de N.A.C.W.P intégrés pour le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. C'est un protocole pour les réformes pas juste de services de sécurité, mais bien sûr pour l'armée aussi, pour que ça soit intégré de manière citoyenne pour la SSD totale, la sécurité totale, le service total, défense totale, plus en parenthèse pour la réponse dans l'état d'urgence, comme je dois saluer à Manitoba, à Saskatchewan, puis en Alberta, tout le travail qu'ils font là, bien sûr, c'est quelque chose que c'est important. Et donc, dans cette manière de le faire, de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, théorie de la refusion de la dette, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, prendre toute la dette publique-privée, convertir la dette publique-privée du Canada dans la devise des États-Unis. Avec cet argent-là, on va rebâtir. On doit faire de l'addition parce qu'il faut qu'on fasse l'implémentation Canada-États-Unis en même temps, simultanément. Fait que la création de cette nouvelle unité d'échange universel, c'est Canada-États-Unis, puis d'autres pays qui veulent nous rejoindre. On va finir avec la frontière. On va lever la frontière. Ils ont fait des investissements dans la frontière. C'est pas nécessaire, vous comprenez pas. Le point de sécurité, c'est les aéroports et les ports. Les aéroports et les ports. Les aéroports et les ports. C'est par les côtés là, qu'il faut sécuriser. Là. D'en haut en bas dans l'Arctique. C'est là les points d'entrée. C'est pas par les États-Unis qu'il faut qu'on se fusionne pour la SSD totale avec les points de protocole du nouveau 9.1 de l'armée du dragon et l'armée de la déesse qui danse parallèlement complémentaire à l'armée du dragon. Ça va être l'armée de la déesse qui danse, soit la ligue de défense, soit la ligue intégrée de danse. On va danser pour l'environnement, on va faire beaucoup d'éducation puis beaucoup de travail parce que vous avez vu dans mes vidéos passées, je montre des fois la caméra, on filme les poubelles. Qu'est-ce qu'on voit dans les poubelles? Des choses qui doivent aller dans le recyclage et vice-versa. Fait que ça prend l'action individuelle. Comme moi, ça prend l'action individuelle pour le français. Si moi, je le fais pas pour le français, d'abord, vous le faites pas. Vous le faites pas pour le français d'abord. Fait que c'est des choses qu'il faut qu'on dise, bien sûr, dans ce point de convergence où qu'on est rendu aujourd'hui. Fait que dans ce point de trinité, pour faire la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, le plus tôt possible, ça presse. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, fait que toute la dette publique-privée, on va faire la refusion. On va faire la refusion de toute la dette publique-privée. Fait que toute la dette publique-privée, on va faire ça de côte à côte. Toute la dette publique-privée, on va faire la refusion. On va faire une augmentation. On va faire toute la dette publique-privée. Toute la dette publique-privée. Convertir la dette publique-privée du Canada dans la devise des États-Unis, faire l'addition avec la dette des États-Unis. Et cet argent-là, ça va servir. On va faire une nouvelle monnaie. On va faire la création d'une nouvelle monnaie. Les UI, on va faire avec implémenter la TRD, on va pouvoir financer les gens à l'entraînement physique, financer, bâtir l'infrastructure du collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, les 10 provinces, 50 États et 3 territoires ensemble. On va finir avec la frontière. On va faire la création d'un passeport commun. On va faire un grand recensement des 63, ceux qui veulent pouvoir, qui peuvent servir dans la nouvelle armée de la sécurité, service et défense, intégrée avec toutes les unités de sécurité, de police et de l'armée qui existent, plus la mobilisation d'1%. On va devoir faire beaucoup de biens communs, financer les gens au tourisme aussi, parce que moi, ça fait du bien quand j'ai traversé le Canada en 2017. Fait qu'on va bien faire du bien commun, on va bâtir plus de centrales Hydro-Québec, on va bâtir les 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une guerre nucléaire, dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire, et ces choses-là, bien sûr, qu'on va devoir faire dans ce point de convergence, ou qu'on a, bien sûr, dans ce point où qu'on est rendu maintenant sur la montagne, le sommet de la montagne, ma deuxième maison de Mont-Royal, des amis avec bénéfice seulement, prêter allégeance les gens, vous êtes famille, c'est des choses qu'il faut que je le fasse moi-même, tu sais, l'implémentation de cette théorie, il faut que ça commence par moi-même, ici, démocrate, républicain, démocrate, il faut vraiment enlever la frontière, faire la création, s'intégrer à tous les niveaux, puis bien sûr, le partenariat public-privé, la création de ce nouveau parti politique, avec les travailleurs du Collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, le Parti du travail du Collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, ou le Parti démocrate républicain de l'Amérique du Nord, parce qu'on va fusionner le Nord avec le Sud, vraiment. Prêter allégeance les jours de famille, le TRD, c'est la solution, il n'y a pas d'autre solution que la TRD. La théorie de la refusion de la dette, il n'y a pas d'autre solution. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution, la TRD. Vous savez, parce qu'on est à veille d'avoir peut-être un effondrement des finances, peut-être même la pleine lune, c'est dans un couple de jours, le 11, fait qu'on va devoir faire la TRD. Prêtez allégeance les gens, vous êtes famille. Cadence, get ready for that cadence. Get ready for the cadence. Dragonomic cadence, creative freestyle mode. Creative freestyle mode, get ready for the cadence. Dragonomic cadence, get ready, pledge your allegiance, legions. Dragonomic cadence, pledge your allegiance, legions. Okay, Dragonomic cadence, pledge your allegiance, legions. Dragonomic cadence, pledge your allegiance, legions. Thou art family, thou art family, thou art family. Dragonomic, property of the Dragonomic. Created freestyle mode on the top of the mountain, Mount Royal. Adrian Hot Dragon Rebirthing, Dragon Zero, aka General Collectif, Dick, Dragon Army Cadence. Let's go. Let's go. Create a freestyle mode, or use only if you're an ally or an army. Pledge your legions, to our family. Dragon Army Cadence, 6th of June, special edition. The 15th, the 16th, or the 17th, or some other gotta get a little bit of that and see somebody going a little bit with those lights on the go, going in and going out. So gonna get that Dragon Army Cadence, and they gotta be careful. We're gonna let them warn that there's a little bit of that difficulty there when they go in, and when they go on, they gotta get it on the go, and that's why they're gonna get it now, to get on the breakers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, and firefighters. They're gonna get on that and get on that terrain and get ready. Dragon Army Cadence from the darkness. So we're gonna get those lights. Dragon Army from the dark into the light. Dragon Army from the dark into the light. Dragon Army Cadence. From the dark into the light. You know that we gotta go. On the army gotta do. Dragon Army Cadence. For the butchers, for the bakers, for the nurses, for the doctors, firefighters, and those plumbers. We can't be bought, we can't be bribed. Dragon Army, that's alright. Gotta get through dust and blood, sweat, and tears. Ain't nobody born a dragon. Ain't nobody born a dragon. Ain't nobody born a dragon. Gotta get it so you know. Gotta get it so you be. for the SSD. Gotta do it for allegiance, for the 63. Hey, for the 63, for the 63. It's you, us, and they and me. Hey, we gotta do it for the 63. It's you, us, and they and me. Train conductors, plumbers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters. Somebody flipping some burgers. Somebody flipping some burgers. Gotta get it rock and roll. So that me, that you know. They gotta get it on the left. Gotta get it so you bet. We don't bet, no, we don't gamble. Hey, it doesn't matter if you fumble. Get that recovery up and go. And ready to move the post. And you know we see in the darkness. That's a light and that's politeness. Hey, some of my dragons are black. Some of my dragons are white. Some of my dragons are black, white. Hey, the moon is on the full. Gotta get it, that's a tool. Hey, the moon is on the full. Gotta get it, that's a tool. Tool, that's the goddess. A moon, that's the shining. Red and stars we go. Red and stars we go. For the rope and for the dope. For the rope and for the dope. Dragon army cadence, that's the sentence. Hey, we are dragons, not some demons. We are dragons, not some demons. Plumbers, electricians. Plumbers, electricians. Gotta get it for the do. Gotta get it for the doers. Gotta get it. And gotta live it. Gotta water, gotta see it. Gotta water, gotta see it. Gotta be and gotta live it. Gotta get it on the road and the truckers that you know. Truckers, electricians, plumbers. Gotta get hydration on it. Gotta get the weight. Gotta get some pipes of lead. Gotta get some pipes of lead. Gotta get the pipes of lead. Thank you for building public workers. You know now what I'm doing. I'm pressing on that water fountain and it's getting a little bit of that water fountain. That's what they gotta get doing on that. And we gotta see a little bit of I think that's a raccoon going there slowly, looking for a little bit of something. That's what they gotta get doing with that. They gotta get doing on the go with that, and they gotta get drilling as people come here and enjoy. And of course it's flora fauna, so that's why don't pollute when you come here. They gotta get on the dough, and that's why they gotta get a dough. So hydrate. Gotta get it for you know. They gotta see it for the city. They gotta see it for the city. For the beyond gotta see. For the left and right you be. That you know you gotta be. For the lovers, electricians. Got the plumbers, got you be. For the love and gotta be. That's they gotta go. Let's go a little bit of cadence, you know. So we gotta get that drill, man, see? Gotta get that drills, gotta get that drills. For the left and for the right. On the left and on the right. That's what we gotta do. That's what we gotta do. On the left and on the right. On the serve and on the right. Shit. There it is. Favorite skyscraper, see? That one there. Cigarette. So if you want to check where the satellites are, but now it's foggy, you can't. So satellites are in an orbit constellation, but it's not visible, you know. Usually they fly in a constellation. So how they work is they're launched into orbit. But now it's foggy, so they always follow the same pattern, right? They're satellites. So Elon Musk has about 3,000 satellites, right? So these satellites, and they're not visible now, so they always circulate. They're always going in orbit. There are about 3,000 of them. So there's the technical capability to intercept all telecommunications with them. So all texts, all text messages, all the text messages that you sent, all the communication can be intercepted across the North American Collectif. So we got to do that for total security, total service, and total defense. And we got to get the total security, total defense. So we got to be able to be coast to coast, ocean to ocean, to be able to have all the coast under surveillance 24/7 in case of a thermonuclear strike. Because if there's a thermonuclear strike, if there's ICBM rockets flying, then of course we're going to be able to know where to move it. So these satellites, now they're not visible, right? They're always in the altitude. So these altitude satellites always travel. They're always in motion, right? They never stop. So now they're traveling, but you can't see them really, but they can see us, right? Because they can zoom on you from above the heavens. So they can zoom and check, even check what you have on you with the satellites. If you're carrying a weapon, if you're carrying whatever you're carrying in your pockets, the cell phone, so they can zoom from above, right? They have that technical capability. So even now, the satellite would be able to zoom here and monitor all these people who are here just with the sats, with the satellite. So they would know what you have on you because they have thermal capability. So if you carry a weapon, these satellites will be able to know from above by the heat, thermal heat. So they will know your body temperature, even what you're discussing. So they're able to intercept even the words that you're uttering in your mouth, from your mouth. So that's pretty cool. So that's why we got to have total SSD, total service, total security, total defense. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean for the 63, total security, total service, total defense. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean, you know. For us now, that's what we have to focus on primarily. So that's why I hope that the resolution of the Elon Musk and Donald Trump conflict is for the greater good. So these capabilities, we have to work on them. I know that because in a parallel life, that's what I do. I build satellites, and of course surveillance, you know, like Pegasus, and other things, but for the greater good, of course. Not for malicious, for the greater purpose. For a greater good, because we're at risk, we're vulnerable. We have espionage, we have to replace all the 3Gs, 4G, 5Gs. We have to get all the servers anew, Microsoft, Public-Private Partnership, Dragon Army, new 911 protocols. And we need to build ASAP, that golden hog dome, and we need to get even more sats in the sky for the new 63, new Dragon Army joint Public-Private Partnership to be able to monitor coast to coast, ocean to ocean, but primarily with my DRTT, which we have to integrate to finance mass tourism, mass recreational activity, and build those for the North American People's Coliseum, where we're going to have sportus in perpetuitis. We're going to have sportus in perpetuitis there, and that's what we're going to do. So there was a movie, but that movie is not far from fiction. Of course, it was Enemy of the State. So that was, I think, 1999 with Gene Hackman, Will Smith, Jake Hackman. So those capabilities in the satellites, they're not that new. In theory, they were involved also the Soviet Union with several, but of course not for mass espionage or surveillance in a negative type of situation, just for total security, total service, total defense, as we're going to integrate and implement the CIT, citizen integration theory, for the greater good, right? For the greater good, because we got so many people to protect and serve and service, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. But in theory, you know, the satellites have that capabilities. So it's wow, because in a parallel life I build satellites, small sats, cube sats, circle sats. I build them kind of like a flat or circular ones, kind of like spheres. Most of my sats in the parallel life that I built are spheres, and they're Canada, United States, joint German. So kind of NATO-centric in that parallel life in the future type of situation scenario. So those sats are for public-private partnership. They're mostly for environmental purpose, and of course surveillance for security, service, and defense, you know, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, because we got to launch more sats. And of course, in terms of if we have natural emergencies, or if we have, of course, foreign influence groups, you know, which now we made enemies, potential enemies, outside strong enemies, which might function by financing, you know, by mass financing underworld criminal organizations, which want to harm us. And I'm a centrist, but I predicted what's happening now, and since we got involved by providing military arms, it's best if we do build those capabilities, to just have surveillance. In parallel, we build new service for citizens to go volunteer, see where they're needed, and see what needs to be done for my new 911 Dragon Army protocols for the 63 total surveillance, total security, total defense, total surveillance, total S, total surveillance, total security, total defense. And not to violate an individual's will and liberty and freedom, but N.A.C.W.P is going to chip in for financing of rehabilitation, even for the North American criminal population, my brothers and sisters who lost their liberty. So now I'm in the darkness again. You can see a little bit of the light, but I got to watch my step, although I know the place. You see how now I'm in the dark with that, so that's how you're gonna get drilling, man. And that's where people come, and I go here, there every day, and that's what we got, So I was just thinking sometimes, I click them, and I know the cloudy, but sometimes you see the sats in orbit, they travel, because they're gonna usually go west, or they travel circular, Sometimes you see the lights of the sets, but I guess you gotta look in the spheres and orbits. And I was imagining how we could build more, and in that parallel life, me too, I built some, and some are launched, of course, are from the mountains, several mountains. You can see them, and in that parallel life, sometimes I go on the mountains and I gaze at them, and it's with other scientists which are involved in the building thereof. We launched across North America and Europe base for total security, total service, total defense for the North American European Council, but this one's we got to make for the North American Collective, So that's what I got to do, and that's what I got to get doing. But those capabilities for the greater good, science and technology for the greater good. Back to cadence. So yeah, for the greater good, but of course has to be for the greater good, because we can't abuse liberty and freedom. We got to be insured. So basically that's ensuring freedom, ensuring liberty, and even people where we can build public-private partnership, Microsoft, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Tesla, where citizens can go and visualize what these satellites are doing and see, hey, people are working out, people are training, public hygiene, and hey, there's the DGA, Dancing Goddess Army contingencies, doing some cleaning of the streets. Oh, somebody didn't do too much in that area. That city needs some more education for the environment, because not proper recycling being done, and they're messing up the recycling. So for the greater good, environmental and for the individual, that's why we need to build more SATs across the 63 for the 10 provinces, 50 territories, 50 states, and 3 territories, for the greater good, to serve a higher purpose, and encouraging, of course, to be able to respond with all security institutions, the Dragon Army for total S, total security, total service, total defense across the 63, build those capabilities for total surveillance, total security, total defense, and that's what we need building. And I'm willing to put some massages, kisses, rock and roll, build more sats, Canada, United States, Dragon Army, my dream, the Dancing Goddess Dragon Kingdom, and those satellites to be centers, to have hours where citizens can go and they can watch and see what the satellites are doing, and have zooming in on, X, and if it's a private conversations, then you don't, interfere, or if it's private, we gotta see if there's possibility to see the heat or whatever heat signals, and what the citizens are internally, if they're, dealing with whatever capabilities for defense, for security service, whether fight against, terrorism, or potential criminal underworld mobilized against the collective, against us, that are internal, and for security, service, and defense, total security, total service, total defense, to build and be open to the public, those places where we have in parallel with the webcams, across the 63, where people can go see where they're needed for volunteering, and this total new complementary government and cooperative institutions, and to build more those sats for total surveillance, total security, total defense. Hey, cadence, back to cadence. We got some brains, we got some muscle. In the darkness there's light. We got some brains, we got some muscle. In the darkness there's light. Hey, we got some brains, we got some muscle. In the darkness there's a light. Gotta get it, stars are shining. How many people read some Clancy? How many people read some Arthur C. Clarke? Some Arthur C., some Arthur Clarke. 3G, 4G, 5G satellites. Build some satellites for the Dragon Army. Get the brains and get the muscle. Hey, in the concrete jungle, in the forest, on the mountain, 40 SSD. That's who we be. Dragon Army, the Collectif. Hey, you know we play it hectic. Pledge your allegiance, Legion is the song. Hey, we got a Montreal to San Francisco. For the truckers and the plumbers, electricians and the bakers. Firefighters, firefighters, firefighters. Hey, those in the kitchen doing some of that cooking. Some of my dragons are black. Some of my dragons are white. Some of my dragons are black, white. Some of my dragons are dragonesses as the moon above us stressing. Some of my dragons are dragonesses. Marching steps and then steel toes. We don't want but kill the foes. We don't want but let's kill the foes. We don't want but kill the foes. We 40 SSD. Security, service and defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. For the kingdom, that's the potion. For the kingdom, that's the potion. Marching in the streets with lotion. Marching in the streets with lotion. Hey, we don't need no magic potions. Some of my dragons are white. Some of my dragons are black. Some of my dragons are black, white. Some of my dragons are white, black. None of my dragons are born a dragon. None of my dragons are born a dragon. None of my dragons are born a dragon. Get the trumpets and the sounds. Spit the fire, dragon pounds. Get the trumpet sound alarm. Spit the dragon fire sounds. Get the trumpets got loud. Spit the trumpets fire loud. Get the trumpets fire loud. Spit the dragons on loud. Get the trumpets on loud. Get it for the SSD. For the 63. Gotta get it on the doers. For the butchers and the plumbers. Electricians and the nurses. Firefighters. Gotta flip and see some burgers. You're one, I am none. I am General Dragon Zero. And you are also. We are us. You know, when I put a finger up, you say General Dragon Zero, founder of the Dragon Army. When I put two fingers up, General Dragon Zero, aka Limb Dick Dicklit. When I put three fingers, you answer General Rainbow Dragon Zero, aka Dicklit, aka greatest cuckold in the universe, aka greatest cuckold in the universe, greatest cuckold in the universe. Gotta watch my step. Slip, but it didn't fall. Those who curse me may to be cursed 11-fold. Those who curse me may to be cursed 11-fold. Those who curse me may to be cursed 11-fold. We are dragons, not some demons. Slipped but didn't fall. Marching steps with power steps. Marching steps, then power steps. Marching like the thunder rocks. White and black and rainbow. That of my dragon army, rock and roll. Black and white and rainbow. That's all my dragon army, rock and roll. Black and white and rainbow. That's all my dragon, rock and roll. Gotta see it to believe it. You know that we gotta see it. Gotta see it to believe it. You know that we gotta be it. Gotta see it to believe it. You know that we gotta see it. That's what it is for the left. That's what it is for the go. For the butchers on the road. That's why we gotta see. On the left and on the right. We are marching mountainsides. The left and on the right. We are marching on the mountains. Marching mountains on the march. Gotta get a stomp once. Sing it, gotta see the light. Sing it, gotta see the lights. From the darkness in the light. From the darkness in the light. You know that we got a sight. From the darkness to the light. You know that we got a sight. From the darkness in the light. You know that we got a sight. From the garden, from the darkness. See, that was a big change how we were there from the forest, and now we're getting on that Dragon Army cadence. For the 63 UB. Got a rocket on the go. For the left and for the dough. I gotta get it as you know. Gotta get it as you know. But you know we on the go. How we going in the snow? Snow is born, snow is gone. Hi, Quebec workers. Gotta get it on the do. Gotta get it on the do. What the Who's reading Tom Clancy books? Who's reading Tom Clancy books? We're gonna write our own book, Tom Clancy books. That's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we're gonna get doing, you know. So we gotta get on that go, you know. Gotta get on that trail, on the doers, on the block. Tom Clancy's on the spot. Gotta get it for the newers, gotta get it for the doers. Left and right and electricians. That's how we gotta rock and roll on the stairs. Gotta be prudent here. Anybody want to find us that I go up and down the stairs? Who's reading some Tom Clancy? Who's reading some Arthur C. Clarke? Arthur C. Clarke or Tom Clancy? Or give me another author. Aleister Crowley. Vote, 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 vote. Aleister Crowley, Tom Clancy, Tom Clancy. So we got, that's what we're gonna do, and so we gotta get it. Let's go. Down we go. On the go, on the go, on the go. On the concrete jungle. Now back to the concrete jungle, and that's what we gotta put it up and put it down. And that's what we gotta get doing on that, and we gotta get that rock rolling with that, and we gotta get it on the do with that, and we gotta get it on the left, and see what is a lie, there's a shadow. Where there's a lie, there's a shadow. Where there's a lie, there's a shadow. So we gotta do with that. That's what we gotta do with that. For the left and for the right. For the left and for the right. And we gotta get a spite, and we gotta get a spite. Gotta do it on the go, gotta do it on the go. On the rocks you see we roll, on the steps and on the do, on the steps and on the you, with the steps and I see you. Hey, we are dragons, not some demons. We are dragons, not some demons. We are dragons, not some demons. Gotta get it for the flavor. Gotta get it for the flavor. So you know up in the navel. So you know up in the navel. Flavor left and right we sight. Flavor left and right we sight. Flavor left and right we sight. So you see up in the light. So you see up in the light. Left and right. From Montreal to San Francisco. Dragging on me cadence roll. From Montreal to San Francisco. Get that cadence go. From here to my place, still got 2 hours plus, so still a way to go, baby, for me. Gonna go treat myself to a hamburger on the way, maybe 50-50 on it until now. 'Cause got a tight budget, man. Times are tough, you know. Gotta get that. I live an austere, simple, severe 21st century Spartan lifestyle, but Dragon Rainbow Spartan lifestyle in the 21st century. $10,000 in debt. Besides my anonymous friend, I owe nobody shit. Besides my anonymous friend, I owe nobody shit. Besides my anonymous friend, I owe nobody shit. So maybe only one person, I guess. That's about it. Dragon Army, pledge your allegiance. Let's go. Sing it for the fire. But of course, civilization is a privilege. Thank you, Hydro-Quebec. Workers of the past. This march includes them who were working between 1947 and 1991, always meditating. Eh? Civilization is a privilege. That's why the collective North American civilization, to fuse the North through North Strong and Free, is not enough. We gotta add some loving with the South, South, South. Home of the brave, land of the free, home of the brave. It's not enough. To be brave and free, you gotta add some loving, at least from my part. Pam Bondi. Tell them to make some loving to the Minister of Public Security, National Security. Did a mistake. We don't need the border. We need a new 911 Dragon Army protocols for the 63, for the Empire, for the Dragon Army. Here, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We don't need no magic potion. Gotta get it for the dues. Gotta get it for the dues. For the left or right we bruise. For the left or right we bruise. Gotta salute the train conductors, public transit workers all over the 63. That's how we gotta get doing for this 63, and that's how we gotta get doing with that 63. Beautiful moon. We gotta get on that moon for the 63. Gotta wait my turn here, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta wait for the 63. Let's go. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Montreal to San Francisco. Dragon Army for the butchers, bakers, nurses, those in the daycares who change some diapers. Hydro-Quebec workers gotta roll. On the roam and on the go. Public truckers go. They gotta get and gotta write, and they gotta get and gotta write. They gotta see and gotta sight. They gotta see and gotta lights. They gotta see and gotta spite. They gotta see and up in sight. Up inside and up and down and go we go. I gotta throw some garbage on the floor. Oh my goodness, see, this one has to go. See, you emptied that one? I'm not gonna do a big cleaning because of course it has to be done properly, but this has to be in the recycling, see? That has to be in the recycling. So there's these cups. If they're compostable, they have to be put in the compost, you know? So just keep in mind that this one, you empty it and you put it in the recycling. See, just that. That has to go in the recycling. That has to go in the recycling. So I don't have gloves to do it, but that's how we gotta do it, and that's how we gotta get doing on that, and we gotta get doing on the doer side of things, you know? But again, I don't have the gloves, and to do them all I have to get. That's why we need the DGA complimentary to the Dragon Army. Let's give it up, Dragon Army, for the DGA, vice versa. Dancing Goddess Army, you know, I got Priestess, Rainbow Dragon. Get 2 in 1, Priestess of the Goddess. GODDSS. There's also Dragon Zero, you know, we get that 2-in-1. Abomination, 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 I guess. And that's all we gotta get doing with that. And we gotta get doing on the go, you know. And pledge your allegiance, legions. Our families. Montreal to San Francisco. 4 to 63, 63, you know. All those involved in production, distribution of food, you know. All those involved in the production, distribution of food, and all those now, you know, across the collective, making some cheeseburgers, hamburgers, you know, preparing some food now, you know, making some of those, flipping some of those hamburgers. How many hamburgers are flipped now across the 63? I don't know. Maybe some, maybe more than others. Hamburgers, cheeseburgers, cakes. Maybe somebody making some fries, some burgers, some pizzas, delivering some of that food, making some of that food. All that's being done now, you know. Gotta salute. Gotta salute. I certainly appreciate, and I'm gonna wait here, gonna see if the ambulance is gonna cross, and because it's my way to turn, and since it's got the lights on, I'm just gonna be prudent and gonna wait, give the priority. Now I cross. So we got plenty of time left, and knowing the ambulance, we gotta get it on them, and they gotta get that priority with them, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, man. You know, love our ambulance drivers. Gotta love our ambulance, first responders, security workers, our men and women in uniform, our men in uniform. We're gonna get those new uniforms, Dragon Army and the DGA, red and green, green and red, red and green, green and red, and gonna get that red and green. And for the Dragon Army, for total S, total security, total service, total defense, total security, total service, total defense, total S, and total security, and total defense. And that's my favorite skyscraper there. See the pyramid, pyramid. So we're gonna build new pyramids here, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that. We're gonna get on that pyramid to go, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that, and gonna get it on the XYZ, and we're gonna get it on the go, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that, and we're gonna get clear, you know. Here we're gonna get on that go, and we're gonna just take a U-turn here, not a U-turn, but really we're gonna go down, and that's how we're gonna go there, get it on the do. So John's gonna go switch it on, and gonna get on the go with that, you know, and they're gonna watch a little bit of that. Get it on the go, you know. I'm gonna get now, you know, to turn right, and that's what we're gonna get doing. Let's go for that left, right, set, hut. Hey. Going down the slope. You know, gonna finish with that rock and roll, hey. Going down the slope, Montreal, as we go. Dragging on the cadence, that's my rock and that roller. As I go down from the mountain, gotta go it, gotta hungry, gotta eat it, gotta fitness. Ain't nobody cheering but the crows and the hawks, my totem bird. And I go when you go, that's the moon up in hello, that's the moon up in hello. So you see up in let's go, so you see up in hello, so you see up in the bro. On the left and on the right, on the B and on the side, for the say and for the sight, for the C and for the sight, for the C and for the light, for the C and for the bite, for the C and for the bite, for the C and for the light, for the C and for the sight, for the C and for the lights, for the C and for the lights, for the C and for the bite, bite left and right. Gotta get that fit, that's right. Gotta get that rock and roll, gotta carry on for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, plumbers, ambulance drivers, gotta step up. Hey, gotta get me some prepping, gotta give me some of that moon. God is getting fool spoon. God is getting fool. God is getting fool. God is getting fooler. Yep, finishing with gratitude, grateful, thankful. My rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, and auctioning everything that I'm wearing, $1 million to give half to my anonymous friend. And still got about more than 2 hours from here to my place. So make loving tonight.